Man, all right, here it is, 11, episode 11. And what time is it again, Ben?
Unfortunately, it is 3 o'clock in the morning for me over here.
God, I know, dude.
The sunrise will be happening pretty soon.
Oh, God, I want to get in bed before it comes up. But we just couldn't stop talking. This was awesome. We hopped in on dev stage 2, and we talked about development last episode. We talked about where this is a 3-part series of developing stories that we're talking about, and today we talked about 3 other approaches of story outlining and development. And then what else did we do? We had a cool new segment too.
Yeah, from there we sort of broke down the way that we're outlining our story now that we've been writing this alien fantasy. We sort of created this system of having little gated gardens where we can go in and write as we go and not know exactly what's going to happen in the scene. To do a segment live on air called Live Write, where we actually go into the first shot and the first little couple paragraphs. We establish the character with the Write Guys tool, throw that thing down, flip it, and reverse it. And we actually write out a few paragraphs in person, kind of going back and forth, talking through the sentences and what we want to say with the scene and the shots. So that was a lot of fun. It sort of was the first time we did live writing on Write Guys, which has
We
been
talked about it in the original one, but we've talked about doing it before this, and we were like, I don't know how that's gonna happen,
Yeah.
But we decided to go for it, and I'm stoked, man.
Yeah, we've got a scene in there written now. And then after that, we went ahead and did the challenges. So the challenges are obviously continuous from last week, and they're going to be continuing into next week as well, as we're in part 2 of our trilogy challenge right here in episode 11. So stick around to the end to hear about the challenges that are going to be due for next week in episode 12, finishing out the trilogy challenge. It's a very exciting time to be a Write Guy. Guys, grab on your headphones tight, clench your butt cheeks, and just start getting ready for this theme song, because there's about to be something a little bit unexpected here.
Damn, that's right. Let's get into it. I'm clinching. Let's go.
Micah, welcome back to the bar.
Dude, what the hell did I just see?
Yeah, for
That
all
was
of the
sick.
video viewers on YouTube, big surprise there. New intro animated by our very own Nathan. He was my writing partner in our collaborative challenges. He has a video production company, Halo Union Productions. Check them out on Instagram at Halo Union Productions. Yeah, thank you,
Dude, that was
Nathan.
so sick. I thought I was about to watch like the Olympics or something. That was awesome. We were zooming through the neon sign. Oh my goodness, dude. Man, right, guys, we're really stepping up here. Here at episode 11.
Yeah, and again, I said it last week, but I'll say it again for the folks in the back. That was Dahi Divine on saxophone as well. That's a new addition to the theme song.
Hey, how close are we to getting that on Spotify to where everyone can just listen to Right Guys when they wake up and just listen to that smooth intro?
It's pretty close. It's actually now in the pipeline with my production team, which is something that I haven't talked about on the podcast before, but it's actually something that happened in the last couple months. Just over the course of maybe somewhere between episodes 6 and 7 or something, I was contacted by this class at a university that's just doing like their classes on like artist management and production, publication, distribution of music. And they found me on Instagram and they reached out to me to sign me to their like student record label. and do marketing and publicity, and then publish my songs on Spotify.
Is that in Pennsylvania?
They're in Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut. Okay.
Yeah. So University of New Haven, Connecticut. I'm now working with them.
That's so cool.
So it's part of now our plan. Our release plan is going to be the Right Guys theme eventually. So that'll be before too long. And that's like, yeah, so we're excited about that. It's going to be called Writer's Block Party, and that will be on my Spotify, Ayumi.
You know, I just had this idea. Mm-hmm. As Right Guys grows, because we're just gonna do this till we're dead, and who knows how many episodes we're gonna be at, and who knows how big the community is gonna be by then. But maybe one day we'll like scoop up some like claymation artist, and they'll take the Right Guys theme, Writer's Block Party, and then like do some claymation music video to it. I could see it with like I'm seeing it with like the hand like, and then like it floats off, you know, like some stop motion. Yeah, whole music video would be dope, dude.
Yeah, that would be a cool style.
I see the like picture of Davi coming in with the sax, and then like music notes like floating out, like being written out or something. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, we'll get Nathan to do it.
Yes. All right, Nathan, you're on board. You're stuck. Clear your schedule. We got plans, and it's all gonna be free.
Micah has a vision for a 2-hour claymation epic intro.
Also, our budget is 0, but you will get a lot of heart and encouragement from these two guys.
Yeah, you can have all of the booze that you want in our bar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just take your pick. It's all virtual, so you know, drink as much as you want, and imagine how much party you want to have.
Yep.
This is about it. Best thing about that is there's no hangover.
It's all in the metaverse, baby.
That's right, baby.
So, Micah,
oh man,
what's been on your mind? Were you on a business trip or something?
Dude, I've been on a business trip since we basically filmed the last episode. I've been shacked up in the great state of Arkansas, the natural state. Yeah, so Little Rock, Arkansas, which is a great place. I don't know anybody there. The only person I do know up in Arkansas that rang a bell, and if you're listening, and I do know you in Arkansas, I'm sorry that I didn't think about it, but I thought about my buddy Corey Brandon from Norma Jean. Hit him up, and he was like, man, that sounds sick, I'd love to hang out, but I'm about 3 hours away from you. And I was like, I just kind of thought Arkansas was like all in one, you know. It's smaller than Texas, so it's got to be closer, right? So we didn't end up hanging out. I brought my skateboard, and then I didn't skate at all.
Wow.
We had a couple beautiful days too, and I just decided to. I did try to one day. One day I was like, I'm gonna skate today, and I finished up the job site, and then I was like, man, I got a lot of day left. I'm gonna go find a cool park and skate. So I drove around to a park, and then I pulled up, and like there was a lot of people there, and I was like, not my vibe. Looked up another park, drove there, like across town, got there, and I was like, it could be cooler. Put in another one, and all the while I was on a new Spotify. I love Spotify radios, where I'll just like I'll find some gems. Yeah. And I was on the 80s band Starship.
Okay, yeah. Sure.
Great band. But their radio station hits hard. So I went Starship Radio. I'm just like windows down, driving to different parks. I did that for about 3 hours.
Wow. How many you must have hit up quite a few parks.
Okay, hold on. Let me think. I hit up 6 parks, and I had a lunch break in there. But the whole time I was just listening to Starship Radio, having a great time on a beautiful day, driving around, and just didn't decide to skate. But other than that, project went well. Got back home. Been playing catch up all day yesterday and today. As you know, Ben and I had maybe, how many calls do you think we had today?
Are you counting them all as separate calls? Like
every separate call.
Me, right?
Yeah. Every time I rang you, how many times?
Maybe 4 that I answered, 5 total.
4 or 5, maybe 6. I'm thinking like on the way and then 6. on the way. Maybe we're at 6 calls.
Yeah. If you include this one, it's definitely at least 6.
Okay. Yeah. But basically, I got back and I was like, man, we gotta record this episode, and we both had all these ideas. We just didn't have any time to talk yet, and so yeah, we had about 6 calls today, like 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 30 minutes here, 5 minutes here. But yeah, the bringing that full circle, the biggest thing that's been on my mind, writing wise, has been I am in the second phase of editing for my children's book for Randy the Robot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yes. And oh my God, dude, I'm so glad that we've been doing the Right Guys curriculum up until this point in this children's book journey. I've been writing this children's book. I wrote this children's book 10 years ago, probably more than that by now. I've actually been like aggressively pursuing developing it for around 3 to 4 years. And fallen through on artists a few times and like legal stuff and all this stuff like that and copyright, trademark, all this yada yada. And now I'm like finally on the streamline. I have it dialed down. I watched like videos on editing. I watched like how long a children's book should be. I got everything dialed in. I shaved my story down. It was 896 minutes or not minutes, 896 words. Right, stretched across 40 pages, fully color illustration on every single page, and I get with my first draft of editing with the editor that I landed. She comes back, she loves it, she's excited about it, she has all these great things to say, and she was like, "I will say this: we've got to pick up the pace on it. It's got to move a little faster. I need a little bit more arc on this character. I need to care a little bit more about him if we're going to mention him. If I need it, like we need to tie him back in the end. Also, while you're adding in more arc on this character, I need you to shave 200 words off this." And I was like,
"No, thank you."
No. Karma came around and bit me, dude. Like, setting all these word count things and all these chop exercises, but dude, she said that I had to re-chop this story that I've chopped like 3 times before.
Yeah.
Another 200 words, so I had to get it down to 690. I got it down to 696, and she was totally right. I read it through now, and it's so much smoother. It's so much like punchier. It makes sense. Like there's no time for like attention to waver.
Right.
I was able to work in a more developed arc on one of the characters in that, which means I had to cut more of the story out and then add in stuff.
Yeah.
But I tooled around with like in one sentence mentioning this character. Like one of my characters' name is Frabble, and he's Randy's creator. And
you love Frabble.
Oh, Frabble's great, but you didn't really know much about Frabble. I wanted to develop him in other stories, but she had a great point. She was like, "You've got this 10 book idea in your head, but if you don't sell the first book, then you're not going to get to the second or the 10th." And I was like, okay. She was like, "Yeah, we got to care about everybody right now." And I was like, "Okay, good point. Thank you, professional scholastic editor." And so I dove into them, and it was some of them were like simple things like Randy realized blah 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 that true happiness came from helping others, blah blah blah. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna shrink that sentence down, but also I'm going to add Randy realized, or no, at that moment, Randy realized Frabble was right. True happiness came from blah, blah, blah. And it was like, it brings Frabble back into the story there. And then it brings Frabble back into the story again. And then again. And then, so now instead of Frabble basically releases Randy into the world in the beginning of the story, now you hear about Frabble on points throughout the entire story. So it really feels like you have two developed characters by the end. And it really brings worth to the words that he said before and lets you know Randy's like inner thinking and all this stuff. So I learned a lot in shaving those precious 200 words.
Yeah.
But they are shaved, and I sent them back, and I should actually get the second round of edits in the next couple of days. She said like 4 to 5 days, and that was about 3 or 4 days ago.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, what's been on your mind?
Well, dude, wait. I mean, I just want to say I can't wait to read Randy when it's ready. I can't wait to buy it for my nephews and like get myself a copy and just like do like just get into it, get into the Randy verse and like see where like what you've been investing all this time in, like actually get my hands on it and pour through it. It's I just know how precious it's gonna be. And
man, I'm so excited too, and thank you so much. I like whenever I finally sit down and like show somebody like pictures of a finished page, I'm like, oh, I got a new finished page of illustration. I always have to scroll through like 3 full swipes of the screen where it's like grrr, and it's like all like text and going back and forth and tweaks on each page of the raw like pencil drawing, and then you have the dark line drawing, and then you have the base color drawing, and then you have the final colors, then you have the lighting put on top of it, you know, and there's notes on every single one, and there's 40 of those pages and 40 of those like massive things of it's just been a background part of my life about every single one of the weeks in my life, and a massive chunk out of the money that I make because I'm funding the entire thing myself. That is just something I've been living with for like two straight years with this artist, and we talk all the time, and we have a great relationship now. But thinking about seeing it all together and just handing it to somebody and just being like, just dive in, just go, just see if it hits, you know, like it is literally like dream status in my head, and it's right around the corner. It's gonna happen. It's absolutely gonna happen. But still, it feels like something surreal, like thinking about sending that. I've got multiple friends with kids that I have focus grouped different parts of the story on. Like I did text once where I was trying to decide on a letterer, and I found a letterer that I really loved, and she came up with this badass organic handwritten font for the entire book that I was just totally in on. And my illustrator was like, man, I think this is really cool, but I got 3 daughters and they're having trouble like getting past even the oldest one is having trouble with how the W's are here and the H's and all this stuff. And he was like, I really kind of think that with how busy the pages are, like we went super busy in all the illustrations. It was like, I really think that that maybe a simpler text. And I was like, no, I want this letter. Then focus grouped like 3 different fonts off of a few like friends, families that I have. And they all came back synonymously, like, this is the one, this is the one, this is the one. All of them chose the same one. It was the simpler one. They all had the same edits. They were like, my kid has, one of them was like, my kid has reading disabilities. This kind of trigger, I can see this triggering it, which rang true to me because I had reading disabilities growing up, like dyslexia and all this stuff, and letters switched around for me. But it's just been a learning journey from the beginning, and all that. Obviously I'm very excited about it, but I can't wait, man. Just thinking about it being up and I know that it's just gonna be like releasing an album where like I'm gonna put it up, and wherever it's released, I'm gonna be like refreshing over and over again just to wait for another review to read it. Like, oh my God, what they say, and then they'll read it and be like, either they'll be like, I hated it, or they'll be like, oh, it was so great. And I'm like, for every good review, you always go back and like listen to your song. And you're like, oh man, they loved it. Yeah, let me go back and listen to it. Yeah, that does hit right there. Like go back and read it. Oh yeah, that does feel good. I just can't wait for that. I dream about it.
It's crazy with a kid's book, like the place that you get in someone's life. Like
it's intimate.
If a kid likes a book, you're reading that book every day for like a year probably. Yeah. And it's like at a bedtime with kids books, like you get through them and you can read them like you were saying, 600 words. That's the length of one of the challenges this week, right? Like
right.
That's like you can read through that in 10 minutes pretty easily, and like in the end that can be a routine that is happening with many books every night. And like if this one gets added to the arsenal, it just becomes a part of your life.
Oh yeah. The parent
all the characters, all the pictures, all the pages, all the little details.
Dude, I think about stuff too. Like I got so wrapped into stories as a kid, and I always wanted to be whatever story I loved the most when it came to like Halloween. I had to really identify who I was going to be for Halloween was very important.
Yeah.
And it very much represented who I was at that moment. And I've been a robot. I've been a ninja. I've been an Indian. I've been all sorts of stuff. But I think about like one of those things, in like releasing like the first O Sleeper album, I remember thinking like, man, I wonder if anyone will ever get a tattoo of a lyric. That would be the absolute top. Like that would be insane. Like I can't even imagine that. And then it happened, and it blew my freaking mind. And every time I see it, it blows my mind. And I remember writing Randy and seeing him come to life and seeing him basically. I remember the first time that I saw him as a character when we decided on his when we decided on his character development, and we're like, this is what Randy looks like. The first thing I thought of was I was seeing Randy for the first time. I was like, that's him. And then I was like, oh my God, what if I get to see a kid who wants to be Randy for Halloween and the homemade costume they make for him? Because that's it. They just want to be Randy. And their parents have to be like, well, what the hell? We can't buy a Randy costume. And then like see like a picture come in, like our kid had to be Randy, so here they are, and then like seeing that, I would be like, oh my God, the top has happened. Like we have made contact.
Yeah.
On the deepest level, we've achieved Halloween costume status in a little kid.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great goal.
Dude, it will make me so happy. Like I will soar seeing that if it ever happens. But those are like the difference of goals that I think about with like music. They're very lateral, just in a different demographic, and I find myself already going to those. Like, man, I can't wait to read the reviews. I can't wait to see like, does someone do a Halloween costume? Like, I can't wait to see like where they have like their binder with like stickers all over them. If there's a Randy sticker on there, like, oh man, then if you made it to the binder, you're big stuff.
Well, speaking of music goals, I've had in general on my mind, I've been in the stage of like, we sort of saw, I had a lot of new songs that I wrote recently.
Yes.
That I sort of broke through a writer's block and got through writing out like what is more than enough songs for an album, pretty much.
How many you got?
I have written out now the songs that I'm like, I know that I really want to record, and it was between like 13 and 15. And I'm like, okay, I should just like focus on recording for a little while.
What number were you at like Right Guys 1?
Of those, probably like 4 or 5.
I gotta say, it's so cool knowing that you've developed that much on your other writing projects while doing the challenge every single week and coming up with like, I don't know, it's just that is so cool.
So it would be about like 8, I would say, and there's a mix of, you know, ones that I started before and finished now, some that I have completely written since Right Guys started, and since then there have been other shifts in my philosophy, like being okay with accepting shorter songs. So like some of these songs on this list that I know I want to record now are songs that were written up to the same point like years ago, but I was not confident in them as like a standalone. Like I thought there was like missing a verse, or like the song's supposed to have a bridge, but I haven't written it yet. And I guess after the years of like sitting with the song and thinking about what it is and realizing that it stands on its own, I'm ready to say that it's ready to be released.
Hell yeah, man. That point of like coming back to your sculpture with chisel in hand, and you're like, it needs something else, but then finally deciding, you set it down, actually it's done. And that's just a decision you have to make.
Yeah, it's like,
that's cool.
It's like I just had a paradigm in my head a long time of what the song was supposed to be, and like after stepping away for a long time and coming back to it and realizing how cool it was as it was, I was like, I don't know why. I just had an idea that it should be something else.
Yeah.
It just felt like there's no point in just holding it back forever.
I get that. Like not letting the song be itself, rather like trying to just push your own agenda on it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool, man.
But
wow, 13, 14 songs?
Yeah, so I'm ready to go into a phase of hunkering down with production. I have this team now that I'm working with on like a storyline for releases that makes sense marketing wise to build a persona.
Very cool.
So yeah, got the path sort of laid out ahead, and it's exciting. And in the meantime, other thing I've been thinking about on my mind, and well, literally on my mind, the hair is getting longer. I just wanted to shout out that I have gone through with the whole poll.
With the Discord poll.
We
kept that mop, baby.
Yeah, the hair was gonna stay. And so the hair has stayed. Beyond this point, a haircut may happen at some point.
You have this beautiful, vibrant, like auburn hue to it that I haven't ever noticed before. You have red tones in that brown, don't you?
Thank you.
Are you seeing that too?
I'm seeing it. See it right now. I mean, like it may be the lighting in this room, but I don't know. I do sometimes.
It looks like deep fire.
Hair. Thank you.
Matches your soul.
Thank you. Thank you much.
If you're watching, I'm sure you agree.
So, if I do get it cut at this point, I will keep at least some of it full length.
Hold on. Are you saying that we need to do another poll here? Or are you reclaiming control of your own hair?
I think I.
What I mean, I'm putting you on the spot, baby.
I would say I was always in control of my own hair, and I was choosing to adhere to the poll.
It is your power to give up power. That's true.
And
I think that we're all very, very satisfied with where we've landed too.
The decision to not cut my hair can always stand for some of my hair. And we could
okay, we're dividing the playing field basically
right.
Onto what you control and what you give.
Because there's a lot happening back here that is not okay to me. That's like getting to a point where, we'll see. Maybe we need to start trimming some things. Maybe we find another solution. If that's not okay with it, if the community revolts, then
we'll see. I'm gonna have to hop in that Discord. This is something that I will hop in on.
Ultimately, I'm a man of the people. And
we'll put that to the test.
If I'm
should we trim? Should Ben give up some of his cranial territory? Should he give it all? Is it an all or nothing vote? Should he have control over certain areas? I don't know. Weigh in. Tell us.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like we have the reins, and it feels good.
Ultimately, my life is ruled mostly by the people around me.
Hey, if you need a power grab, then you can take it back, bro.
Again, I'm a man of the people. Whatever that's supposed to mean.
I think it looks great, though. I just want to say that. I just do want to say that.
Thank you. Your hair looks great as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It is getting long, and I'm excited about that. So,
my other thing on my mind.
Okay, let's go.
That I've been watching the last season of Attack on Titan. There's a few things with this.
Hold on. Fill me in. I got through 2 seasons.
Okay.
And then I got distracted. I haven't been back. Yeah. But I loved those 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Is this a new season?
This is season 4.
And did it just come out?
Yeah. But
okay, that makes sense because Call of Duty did you hear about that?
Mm-mm.
I didn't know. I thought it was so random that that Call of Duty, straight up the most mainstream game ever out there, along with Fortnite, which I'm sure they're in Fortnite too, but I don't play it. But all of a sudden it was like, get the new the new Titan skin, and it was an Attack on Titan thing, and you could get like your melee weapons could be the swords that they use, and I was like, man, a little late to the party. Like, it didn't dawn on me once that maybe Attack on Titan put out a new episode and they were pushing it. Now that makes sense. Yeah. I was like, damn, I knew about that like years ago. You're just now figuring out about this? Okay. See how it goes. But that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Full circle.
But the show has so season 2, I would say, season 3 is like a lot like the other seasons. Season 4 is a little different because it's like a new studio. And it's not bad. But the show has shifted a lot in tone. And I'm not gonna say anything about storyline. This has nothing to do with the plot. I'm not gonna spoil anything. I just mean in terms of the writing and pacing. The show has shifted a lot in tone, whereas I would say the first few seasons felt extremely deliberate, where they had this very, very slow pacing of getting to see a lot of character development for every character, and getting background and getting hints, and they were setting up clues to things that you wouldn't realize what they meant until
setting
you
Easter
finished,
eggs.
Yeah, until you finish season 2, then go back and watch through, and it's these characters are just talking about something in open that's a secret and a twist that you find out at the end of season 2, but because you don't know anything, you just the dialogue just glosses over you. Right. You don't think about what they're saying. But
and if you don't track with the entire thing, then you'll miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they put it in there, and all that attention to detail is was my favorite part of the show. And it was not the only good part of the show. The show also has great action, great lore, great twists and turns, but like the way that they wove the like twists into like things you could have figured out, and like showing you things on screen, and like using an objective camera that doesn't like zoom in on something to give you like a bonus clue that thing's important. It'll just let it be in the background.
Yeah.
It's sort of just like, well, it's just an objective lens. It doesn't like try to highlight and like the way they use those elements to like build
their subtlety.
Storytelling, was so beautiful and like one of a kind. And the show has picked up in pace a lot, where like in the first few seasons they had like filler episodes. Pretty much they had episodes like where almost nothing happened. There's like a cleaning episode in one of the first few seasons, and like there's then like they're fitting in like 3 chapters per episode in season 4, where like the pace becomes much more aggressive, of like they're trying to close the gap on the manga. And so the pace is a lot faster, and it feels like the things that in previous seasons were set up across entire season arcs of like showing you a scene that then is an important flashback that then like motivates a character to do something, will be all contained within one episode. Like you'll get the setup to it and the flashback. That's like the payoff. And it just feels like way more contrived in terms of like, even knowing that it is based on a story that would have paced it out in a longer way, having it written back to back, like, oh, the scene happens, then in the flashback to the scene, and it motivates the character. It's like it feels like
I get that.
Yeah, it feels like they just came up with it, and so then they made then they went back in time and did it, and then they had a flashback to it.
Yeah, there was nothing leading up to it. It just happened to be.
Yeah, they made up the
how
whole
are we
thing
gonna tie
that
this
would
up?
make
Okay,
it.
well, something you didn't see back there, and that we didn't that you couldn't even see if you went back and looked.
Exactly. So it feels like it, even knowing like that story wise, I can just take it because I know it was written in a way that was set up. So like, but it's tough, and so like I do really like the show still. And all the other elements are, in my mind, still there. And there definitely probably are a lot of Easter eggs that I will see going back that I'll be like, oh, they did still have that kind of thing. But in my experience of the pacing, it's a lot harder to see.
Dude, that what you're talking about is like that. What you and I connected on, I feel like what kind of really galvanized us from the beginning is that we are fans of the Easter egg. We're fans of the third metaphor, the third layer. You know, like we want to know, if you give us an open map, we want to know if you run to the very corner of it, there's something to be found over there.
Right.
Like we want to do the research. Once we love a story, we just want to live it and dive into it and dissect everything into it, and we want it to be rewarding. And when we find something like that, like FromSoft, as a game developer, is that like you can dive in as deep as you want, and you'll keep finding new shit out. And then sometimes a game can be out for, how long was it that Bloodborne was out before they found a new boss? It was something like crazy, like Bloodborne dropped in 15. They found a new boss in 2021 or something like that. Like, it was crazy. But
what boss was that?
It was a chalice dungeon. Someone went into a chalice dungeon and saw a new form of a giant that had never been reported before, and he had like a different set of like weapons and moveset, and it was just like, what the hell? This has been out for years, and like streamers have freaking combed these dungeons, you know, and we just found a new thing. Like, what? But And of course it has some meaning, and the whole like dungeon around it has wax all over it, and he has this candle thing in his hand. It's like, what the hell does all this mean? But anyway, all that to say that you and I, we obsess over that detail. That is what I put into like. That's what you and I talked about, like connecting on like Oh Sleeper songs, like that like when I write an Oh Sleeper song, like I want to do like an overlying metaphor that anyone can get, and then if you dig a little farther, you'll find this one, and that's pretty easy to get. You just have to care. But if you dig a little farther, and then you also dig this far deep on all the other songs, then you'll figure out, oh, these are all connected. And then if you dig even farther, you'll figure out what I'm talking about. That is like what my connection is to it, and you'll figure out all that. But yeah, once you get raised on that and then you don't get it, you still get a good game or good story or good song. It just doesn't have, it's a bite size. It's like, no, this is your bite and there's nothing before or after it. It's all encompassing. Yeah. It's sweet. It's nice. It hits a bigger demographic, but it doesn't hit the special tone that you're wanting. Mm-hmm. I get that. Yeah. Dang, man. Well,
I mean, it's still good. It's still
no. I don't. Yeah, I don't want to diss Titan, but damn.
Yeah,
it sucks because I loved that. Like it was like it felt like watching like Dragon Ball Z, where like everything takes forever to unpack, mm-hmm. but there are little nuances that you learn about different characters and the lore of the you got to watch. I just got through episode like 66, which episode 63, Goku was 10 minutes away from Namek. And it took him all of episode 63, all of episode 64, all of episode 65, all of episode 66. And I know I've seen the sun go down and come back up. And I know that like straight up 10-minute like real-time fight scenes have happened multiple times, and he's still not there. And I'm like, when the hell are you going to land, dude? Like, he's still just standing there, just like, I'm about to be there. This is going to be tough, but I can do it. I've been training. And then it like cuts back, and I'm like, good God, land the... But all the while I'm learning all this other stuff out that makes when he lands mean something even more. Mm-hmm.
I had to and that's something that
I've been a little frustrated about.
Yeah, with Attack on Titan, like it feels so well paced and like earned, like finding out like little bits of lore on the Titans and like finding out about just the history of like just all the hidden things that the little twists and turns, like they're doled out in like these like lore nuggets and like the little panels between the scenes. Like you have to like pause when it goes to like the commercial break, because there'll just be like a lore dump on the screen, but it's just like it's like really esoteric story about like someone digging a hole near one of the walls and like going missing or something, and it's like you just can put together clues of like the things, the little legends that you hear about, and try to figure out what's going on in this.
You want to hear that and then apply it to what you see in the next thing. Yeah,
it's and so it's just like this. Yeah, they really strung it out in a way that felt like so. When you did find something out, no matter how crazy it was so earned, because like it had been such an epic struggle to get there and like to put together all the pieces, and like it felt like that's what the plot was about too. It was about like how hard it is to get that research done and like just learn about the enemy, and
when you have a dedicated fan base, like you can do that. But once you're trying to reach new people on your third season, you've got to speed it up. You got to package it in a different way, and that's kind of where it loses you and I, like fans like you and I. It kind of just makes it a little lackluster, because it's like, damn, I loved all that. I love writing things for the small percent that will put the work in to follow it and like just stay with you. Just be patient, like let me unpack this thing in the right way.
Yeah, I feel like it was a super, super popular show. I don't think that they were needing to change up their formula to gain new. I feel like
you don't think that this was a push for like Americanization?
No, I think it was like a push for like getting the content like out and like finished quicker. Like anime studios, like the production is like
more profitable.
I mean I don't know too much about it, but from what I've heard, like anime studio production is super difficult, and like the industry is pretty tough to work in. And so like I think it was like the studio that was running Attack on Titan either got shut down or it somehow got switched over to another studio, and ultimately like Studio Wit, the studio that made the first 3, is no longer making it. So season 4 has been a totally different studio, and for whatever reason they only had one season. They were given one season by whatever the production company is to wrap up the whole rest of the thing. And what's interesting is they had one season, and like everyone was really worried about how they were going to fit the rest of it into this last season, because it was like almost half of the chapters of all the mangas to fit into like season 4 or something. And they started with like this like 12 episode season, and so everyone's like panicking because they're like, how are they going to fit it into 12 episodes? This is going to be terrible. And then like near the end of that, it may have been announced before that, but we found out like as we were watching the last couple episodes that like this was only part 1 of like a 2-part season. So like, okay, there's going to be 12 more episodes at least. And so that arc like pretty much just finished coming out, that like part 2 of season 4, the Attack on Titan final season. And so we just watched through them. And as we were watching like the finale, we just looked up and found out that there's a part 3.
Oh, damn.
So like they just have been keeping on extending it. So like it is turning out to be like a longer amount of time that they have to like a slightly longer amount of time to pace out the episodes, but still they're definitely fitting in a lot.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll get the reins back on, maybe they'll.
I mean, it's good. I definitely enjoy it. There have been a few really, really great episodes that I've been like, oh my gosh, crazy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we got to get into the topic, but I did want to say that I have been playing. I got on that business trip. I was like, okay, the one thing I'm definitely going to prioritize on this is Elden Ring, and I have been diving in hard. And I probably tripled my play hours on it. You're absolutely right. There are item descriptions. So edit on like the past like 3 episodes I've talked shit on that. There are, and they're great, and there's just so many damn items. Like oh my God. Mm-hmm. I really had no idea how big this world was.
Oh my gosh, dude.
It's so cool. Big. Yeah. And you can go anywhere at any time. I just killed a dragon that I realized, like, I'm looking for. This is not going to mean anything to anybody, but I'm not going to say any names. But I killed a dragon. I'm looking for a Somber Stone 4, and I find a Somber Stone 9, and I was like, oh, like the most I've ever gotten from felling an enemy has been like 40,000 runes. This thing drops me 80,000 runes. And I was like, wow. Oh, okay. I'm in the wrong area. I should not be here right now. Like I can be though. If I decide to press on, I can absolutely be here, but do I want to be? And then I was like, okay, like this is after killing like 3 dragons and then this greater dragon, blah, blah. And I was like, good God. Okay. So let me figure out a different place to go. And then I go hop over another place for a while. And like 3 days, I was just trying to figure out where I was supposed to go, but finding all these amazing new rabbit holes to run down. So right now, at this moment, when I log in, I've got like 4 different ideas going on that I'm like 4 different things that puzzles that I want to solve.
Yeah.
And I'm walking down the main path finally.
Yeah.
I found it again. I found like a somber 4, and I was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. But that was like, you can go on those tangents, and it's okay. And
no, it's so rare. Like, I mean, like it feels like in ways harkening back to some retro styles of games where like you have at the beginning, you're just opened to a world that is like, if you go like, there's one path that is like the correct path forward that will kind of guide you through like the learning curve of the game by fighting level 1 enemies and level 2 enemies, but like, or you could go east, level 70 area, and like you can just start and go east
if you can beat
just
them,
do it.
if you can
like
beat them, if you're cool with it, like then,
and
then you'll just ramp up way fast.
On top of it, the fact that the game is like, the gameplay is such that you're not like just locked out of beating an enemy that's a higher level than you. Like, you can learn to dodge at all the right times, and then stats don't matter. Only your skill pressing the button matters.
Which is truly investing into the deep, small percent of FromSoft fans that love to, like, after you beat the game with all the boosts and everything like that, you want to beat it harder and harder and harder, and you make up cosplay characters that just make the game harder for you, and then you beat it again. This one, it's like, okay, just run out of the opening area and go to the hardest area and beat the first guy. Mm-hmm. No upgrades, no waste of skin, like, that's it. No weapons.
That should be our next Right Guys challenge. We'll challenge each other to get on stream and try to race to the first boss in the hardest area. We
could trade off. We could absolutely do that. We could trade off, and I could commentate you and you could commentate me for the audio listeners. Let's dive into that topic.
Yeah, perfect timing.
All right. So we are continuing. This is, as we said in the last episode, we are going to do a trilogy approach to developing stories, story development. Mm-hmm. So this is Dev 2 is our topic, developing a story a little bit further. And there is a lot of different ways to approach development. We talked about kind of an idea that we amalgamized together called seeding, where we started out and we flirted with the idea of, like, even starting out with a 1 word on a 50-word fantasy oracle or spell could birth 50 words, and then those 50 words could birth the challenge of this time, which we'll get to, of expanding that to around 500 words. That being an approach. We also talked about rapid prototyping, but now that we have structures, we have something on paper. We don't have a blank canvas anymore. Is basically where we're at in this episode, and we're approaching this canvas that has something on it. What do we do with that? Where do we go with it? And Ben actually is, out of the two of us, the only person who has. I had like a year of radio, television, and film, which had like a focus on screenwriting in college. Ben actually like finished out college with writing, so he's got some great insight as to the collegiate level of study and approach to story development. And then we're going to talk about like how we both feel about that. So, yeah.
So there's definitely a few ways of talking about like the next few phases of like what you would consider for an outline. When me and Micah came in last time and we talked about this story that we had come up with the idea for, it was at that point we sort of just had the general blurb of the plot, of just like the main bullet points. The next thing that you may want to do in a stage like that might be something like the 3-act structure. So the 3-act structure is a way of sort of taking like an unformed idea like that, like a something that just sort of has a general like conflict and resolution, like a story that happens, and then breaking it down into chunks so that it will have like satisfying like the sort of the things that we subconsciously look for when we're reading a story.
Yeah, satisfying resolve on different issues.
Yeah, like things will tie together well. And so like there's different factors in the 3-act structure. But basically how it goes is you have act 1, you have like the setup and the inciting incident. The inciting incident is like an introduction to the conflict. So it's like whatever is the first thing that happens that clues the reader or the hero or the town or whatever into the problem. Then the hero typically has a stage of accepting that responsibility, moving into act 2, where they are set out on their journey. Act 2 has like the sort of the rising action, and then that builds to like a crisis point that is like a big problem. And so that then there's a problem that needs to be solved, and then act 3 is where we solve that problem. We have the conflict and the resolution. So many of these keywords, probably things that we've heard before. Resolutions was one of our podcast topics, and we certainly talked about that within the context of the 3-act structure in that episode. But so the 3-act structure is a way of breaking down a story into chunks, and it's should I go into the next way before we discuss our philosophies on them?
Well, we can chop it up for a sec.
Okay.
Yeah, like with that, we were talking about it today, and we'll get to our stances on these, but we were talking about how the initial kickback is like, well, that's a boring story. Like you can't just break every story down into 3 parts like that. Like it doesn't all happen like that. And like, if you look at a lot of the stories, like a majority of stories out there, they kind of do, if you find the right frame of reference for it, and you can pick that apart. You just have to be a little bit creative with your eye and realizing that. And then once you realize that it doesn't limit you as nearly as much as it comes off as sounding like it will, then you can kind of wield it to your advantage a little better, I feel like.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
It's if we're on the 3-act structure, we'll get to this in our segment, which we'll be chopping up in the newest segment we haven't had yet, called a live write, where Ben and I are going to live write a little bit on this alien story, back and forth. But today we were chopping it up and revisiting the rapid prototype structure that we made on the last one, and we realized when we try to throw a 3-act structure over this story. And it worked, but then we realized that those 3 acts were probably 3 books. And so we were like, okay, so let's just focus on the first book then. So we came up with 2 other whole like books of structure of where this thing could go. And then we were like, okay, we need to stick on this one. The first one, where are we starting? All right, now let's take this first one and zoom in a little further and make this into 3 acts. Like, what's going to happen here? What are the main things happening? Yeah. But that's kind of like a loose way of seeing, like, 3-act doesn't have to be so constricting and suffocating. It's just a way to like break your, like, you're looking at this big idea. Okay, I want to get to point A, point B. I know I at least need three stopping points along the way. Let's just pinpoint the big points, and then we can make the in-betweens as big as we want.
Yeah. And one thing I think that is important for me and Micah is always establishing that our own rules are meant to be broken. And so, like,
Yes.
Accept the challenge rules. Don't break the challenge rules, or your
Don't
challenges
you
will
ever
not be
break the
accepted,
challenges.
and we will call the police.
Ever.
You will go to jail.
The hammer of right guys will fall upon thee.
But other than that, other than the right guys challenges, rules are meant to be broken.
Unless your editor tells you to shave 200 words off.
All right,
you better freaking do
there's
that.
There's plenty of exceptions. All right,
just saying.
Rules,
the word count is respected.
Some rules aren't meant to be broken.
True.
And at this point, I completely forget what I'm talking about.
all rules are in creative forms, and music too. Let's talk about music. You understand the rules so you can break them. Mm-hmm. Like you understand the importance of the rules so you can identify the areas where it's okay to break them, and you gain the confidence to break them. In understanding the rules, you gain the confidence to break them within your creativity. Yeah. Because you must break rules. You absolutely have to.
It's almost like with something like music, what would it even mean to like break a rule? Because it's like there just are rules to the way music works. So it's almost like understanding the rules so that you can make up new ways to use them is like how I would put it.
Yeah, well, like just today, but before we got on here, I was over at Shane's house and I was tracking bass for
Chattahoochee.
for Chattahoochee, our 90s cover country band, and we just started doing some emo covers.
Tell me some of the song names.
In country form. So we played Emo Night is this badass thing. If you have it in your town, you got to go to it. It's so awesome. It's just a bunch of emo songs from like, you think about like MySpace era 2003, like all the songs that you were listening to back then. And you can just show up to a place and see everyone your age, like, dressed in all their MySpace, like they're wearing like story of the year shirts and like used shirts and like stripe wristbands and eyeliner and black nail polish, but everyone's just raging and having the best time, and everyone's singing. You're talking about like 700 to like 4,000 people in a room. Mm-hmm. Singing along to My Chemical Romance, like it's you've needed this so much, like it's this outlet. I've DJ'd a couple of them and they're so fun. Everyone's so sold out. So the promoters of it out here, Third Stream Productions with Orlando and Mike Zemer, they reached out to us and like, hey, like longtime friends, we've done tons of shows together and everything. They reached out and they were like, hey, your country band, y'all should do like some emo covers, but in country style. And we'll have you up on stage on the next emo night. And I was like, yes, okay. So I tell the guys in the country band, all of them are ex-emo kids. And everyone's like down. So we chose Teenagers by My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
We chose Until the Day I Die by Story of the Year.
Yes, I know
we chose You're Not Alone by Seosin.
Oh, so good.
And My Friends Over You by freaking Newfound Glory. And we transformed them all into country songs. And then walked out after a DJ was playing. We got all our shit set up on stage, and we have like a steel guitar player and everything, full band. We're all in cowboy hats and all that. And as soon as he finishes, we just like go straight into our set, and it was awesome. And everyone loved it. And we had the breaks, and everyone was still singing, and they're like dancing and jumping around. It was sick. So we decided to. Now we're tracking those songs and we're going to put them up so everyone can hear them. But anyway,
to Seosin.
I tagged Seosin in a post today whenever we were in the studio. But all that to say, this happened today. Knowing a rule to break it. I was writing a bass part and I was like, I wanted to go like this. This feels good. And I always like fact check my musical moves with Shane, because he knows theory through and through. Like I just will never know it like that, and that's part of our dynamic. But I was like, okay, so I wanted to go here, but does that make sense? And he was like, well, no, that's not in key. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, we can go here. It's like, no, it's totally fine. Like it'll just be a pulling tone. Like whenever you hear that, it'll make you focus and fall into the next thing. Like, so that's totally cool. We can definitely hit that out of key. I think it sounds good going into this. And like, that was just something I noted, because I'm always trying to think of, if you give me rules, I think that you can't break them. But whenever I see someone break them that I respect, or approve of breaking them that I respect, I'm like, oh yeah, that's just to know the course. Mm-hmm. But then you're still supposed to make your own way. Same thing applies in writing. Like, know the course, especially when we're talking about putting gray on things, like a hero. What should a hero be? Well, best thing you can do to a hero is make them not like a hero. Like that will make them a more interesting hero.
For sure.
But all that to say that breaking the rules, let's do that. Let's break more rules.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. So what I wanted to say about breaking the rules in the 3-act structure is that we will be planning to break our own 3-act structure probably at some point. That was what I was going to say about it.
Okay. Got that. Yeah.
And so like we're setting it for ourselves as something to know, to sort of have an idea of where the story goes as like a compass. But for Micah and I, as we're developing all of our structures, we're very much aware that they may change. And that is something that we're going to be talking about even more soon in a couple topics. I'm about to talk about something else first, though.
It's kind of like building a structure out of like matchstick walls, where it's like, these will help our soft ideas bounce off and focus a little better. Mm. But once we realize we need to go one way, we're totally okay with busting through that wall and figuring something else out on the other end. Yeah. And for both of us, which we'll get to, that's important.
Yes. And so the next thing that I want to talk about was something that was really helpful for me when I was doing screenwriting. And this is a technique that is particular to like screenwriting, but I think that it is actually a really useful technique for story building, in the same way that the 3-act structure is, that it can be understood as like a loose set of rules that a story should follow. Again, it is like 4 movies. So this is like the standard set of rules that a Hollywood movie would typically follow. And it's one that you can break a lot of typical Hollywood movies into. Like indie movies, not always so much. Foreign films, definitely not. But it's something that is really common in American cinema, is like these 15 points. And this is from Blake Snyder's book. He's a screenwriter. The book is called Save the Cat. And this chapter this part is the 15-point beat sheet. And it's 15 plot points that like happen in almost every movie. And here they are. The first one is the opening image. This is a visual that like sort of represents the story. It's sort of like just establishing something at the beginning that is like tonally consistent. So like if you this is almost more of a reminder to make your first scene something that is fitting to the world. And I think that's like a pretty good reminder for most storytelling. I think like taking your time to make sure that first image that gets in the reader's head is going to be like the right one and isn't just like kind of like random or thoughtless. And so the second thing, step 2, is the setup. Expand on the before snapshot. Present the status quo. So like you're presenting the world before the problem was introduced. So like
Gotcha.
you want to see the character in their element in like maybe a less stressed scenario than the conflict brings on, or at least a different type of stress maybe if they have a stressful life. But like just having an establishment of like whatever was normal so that you have something to contrast the struggle of the plot against.
Yeah.
The theme stated, this is like one of the more specific cool ones that I like in here because it's like really specific. And this is that at some point in like the first 15 minutes of this story, there's going to be a scene where the main character is talking to another character, often like an elder or someone who they who's like very wise, but maybe the character doesn't have all the respect for them that they should. Maybe they do, but for whatever reason they either aren't listening or don't fully understand. But the elder or the other character tells them the theme of the story at some point. Like it'll be like in some interaction, the character like slips up in the typical way that maybe they do. That is the reason that this is like what they need to learn throughout the story. And so then the elder kind of like, or I keep saying the elder, then the other character, whoever's in this advisor role of stating the theme, will tell them.
That could be the dad, the mom. That could be the teacher, the janitor, the old janitor that's been at the school forever.
Right.
That could be the old wizened war general that's getting like decommissioned. That could be the wizard. That could be freaking Bilbo Baggins. That could be anybody. Like whoever is wiser than the focus person
and you can
who you're
see
about
this
to inhabit
in a totally cheesy way, as like you can imagine this coming in as a flashback in like the character's like crisis moment in the climax when they need to realize how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
I see this flashback, this character saying like, and remember, Jimmy, patience is key. And it's like,
you can never have too many knives.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's the theme stated. Then you have the catalyst, which is synonymous with the inciting incident that I brought up in the 3-act structure. The catalyst is the moment that the conflict is introduced. So you have some introduction of a problem that is unignorable.
What number is this?
That is number 4.
4, okay.
Of the 15-point beat sheet. And you have the debate. The debate is the character has the scary moment of deciding whether they want to embark on the journey. And so they'll like have like a time of debating whether they're going to do it.
So you have an inciting incident that calls them to action, and then you have a moment of them deciding if they want to do it or not do it. They have to decide which way they're going.
The call to action,
a little conflict there,
and then like the debate over the action, sort of inaction, and then when they choose to act, that's the break into 2. Act 2 starts, and the journey begins. So we enter into like the scary world. The world is like no longer the home of the character. They're out on their journey or whatever, and they're out in the world.
Right. Open world.
Then
stage.
This is where this one isn't necessarily like, this one doesn't always happen at this point. This one can drift around, but the B story will be happening somewhere here. The B story is a beat on here. That's like, there's sometimes a love interest is a B story. It's a plot that is separate from the main quest. And so it's like a continual thing that you can follow throughout multiple scenes that's separate from the main quest. And in this separate plot, there's usually a discussion of the theme somehow. So like whatever that theme stated was is going to be something that is like coming up and goes hand in hand.
Yeah, taking your focus off of the main thing will only make it fresh when you return. But then if you can reinstate the principles put forth at the foundation of the story before in that B plot, just in a different light, then it'll make everything hit and make more sense later. Yeah.
Yeah. Contextualizes everything and allows you to bring in like hooks later on. But anyway, the next one is another one of my favorite ones. This one is really cool. The promise of the premise. And the way that I like to talk about this one, especially with movies, but it makes sense with books as well. It's like you should have enough meat in the promise of the premise so that all of the marketing materials should be able to come from that. So like the promise of the premise is where in the story you have like the delivery on what the high concept of the plot is. So like,
and this is sitting at what point? What number?
This is in Act 2. This is right after breaking into Act 2.
What beat number?
So this is like beat 7 sort of.
Okay.
But the thing is, it's after the B story beat. So like it could be beat 6.
Okay.
The B story beat kind of drifts around. So the promise of the premise is like right after you break into Act 2, basically. You're starting the promise of the premise. And it's like, say you have like, I think this one is best spoken of through example, a film called Grandma Cop. You, in your mind, you have an image of a number of scenes that could happen in the movie like this. You may be expecting to see
Grandma Cop.
Yeah, right. You may be expecting at some point to see a grandmother pulling someone over, for example.
Right.
What a wild thought. So like those scenes of like the classic cop scenes will happen during the promise of the premise. During like the other parts of the movie, they're gonna have to turn it into like another, like it's gonna have to become like, oh, like a struggle with like disease, or like another thing comes into the picture where like the plot gets like more complicated. But there's a moment in the story that's just like the adventure part. So in like the Lord of the Rings, a lot of the times that's like the traveling and like the meeting different like tribes and like the having little fights, but not like the really important fights where like someone dies.
Yeah.
And like it's like the crazy like war for like the ring or something.
In
so
Grandma
like,
Cop, it'd be like chasing you down with a walker.
Yep. You would get all those classic scenes. And so if you can put enough good content in there, then they can take all the marketing materials they need from there, and they don't need to go farther to get into the real stuff from your story. So this is like your wall. This is your guard wall. And it's like, it's also, that's to hold you accountable as a writer to deliver on the promise of your premise. Because like that's what people are coming to the theater for, or coming to the book for, is to see that like adventure. Like when you pick up a Harry Potter book, you want to go to Hogwarts and like go to an adventure at like a wizarding school. You don't just want to skip to like the climax scene where he's like been out of his classes for like 5 chapters because he's in some dungeon fighting like a dark wolf. It's like, that's an awesome part to like when you get there, but it's like the whole book is like this amazingly stylistic, like enriched adventure that is like just based on this premise of this magical school.
That's important. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I love the promise of the premise. I love that part of stories.
I do too. That's interesting. I like hearing that as being a focus. I thought I was going to kind of be turned off from this whole thing, but that makes a lot of sense to me. And I don't know that those are the things that, especially when I get into like running with a story, the promise of the premise is something that I will keep as a motivating factor for me to get in and write. But I already am experiencing those things, so I don't feel like I need to put them on paper. I can just jump to like the thing that's important, you know. Mm-hmm. But what's really also important, equally as important, is fleshing out the mind that's in your world. Yeah, the bread and butter, that the thing that everybody wants, that's going to bring people in to make them care about your big conflict, you know, that you're excited about sharing. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I feel like the way things are now, like the way I see marketing, it's like a lot of trailers will pull from like Act 3 sometimes. and it's
Oh,
just
I
like
hate that, dude.
it's crazy to see, and like
Where you have to turn a trailer off. You're like, oh no, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
I've decided I want to see it already. I don't
Yeah.
want to watch anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much never watch a trailer all the way through anymore because it's
Dude,
just like,
they're brutal. They're so long and there's way too much in them.
yeah. So it's like that was always something when I was writing my screenplay. Like would just always have in mind like trying to maximize like the amount that the marketing would want to take from like this part before all the twists happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the next part is the midpoint. So there's like this part in the middle of the story where sometimes it's called the false win. It's either the false win or the false loss. It a lot of the times in a film, it's like a part in the middle where you think everything's going right. And you're like, like the stepdads come around and like everything's actually going to be okay.
Okay.
And like,
yeah.
yeah, we're going to the gym and like everything's looking up. Like what could go wrong? So that would be like the midpoint. And so you have a false win or a false loss. And sometimes it's like a build up to one of those moments, like oh, and everything's going okay. And then like, it's twisted and it's like just like a loss, and that's sometimes just what happens there. The next stage is the bad guys closing in, so that's like after like the false win, like the real forces start to pay attention and turn in and move toward the hero. Yeah. And then like you get like the creeping sensation that like, oh no, things could get a lot worse, whether they had been good or bad at the midpoint.
Well, when you're celebrating or recouping, you're most vulnerable.
Yeah. That's exactly where you find the hero at this stage. And so
I like that.
So the bad guys close in and their situation just becomes, the main character's situation becomes one of conflict, of having to turn their attention to the real threat. So then you have all is lost. This is the crisis. You have like the moment that things look pretty much like more they're the farthest from their goal that they are ever going to be in the story at this point. So like whatever the goal was that was set up in the inciting incident, that they wanted to resolve the conflict by gaining this goal. This is the moment that they're like sure that they're no longer going to be able to achieve that goal.
Okay.
So that's all is lost. And then you have the dark night of the soul, which is another great one. This is one of those specific call out things. So this is just like a part of that last one. This is like part of that all is lost. The dark night of the soul is a moment or a scene that the main character like yells or screams something like, but like not always that, but like it's like they always quote like
the apex of anguish, like the crescendo.
Why hast thou forsaken me, Lord?
Yeah.
As the dark, like that, obviously, like dark night of the soul is, I think, connected to that.
Yep, I get that.
Yeah, so that
some breaking point. The you need to meet a ground zero of the hero to like maximize his rise.
Yeah. It's
his or her.
The moment of the moment of total like anguish and desperation. Then you have the break into Act 3, where the hero encounters like the theme, but as like a new idea that dawns on them. Like they innovate the theme and they synthesize it into their solution to the goal. So like throughout the story so far, most of Act 2 has been their attempts at solving the problem.
Yeah.
And in the midpoint, we had like the false win. They maybe thought they got what they wanted. It didn't work out. They're now farther from their goal than ever. But they realized that thing that the janitor said at the beginning, and then that the love interest was keying into in the B story. They synthesized all that together into the solution for the story, which is what the writer was trying to tell you with the story. It's like the theme. right? It's what you learn as like a viewer. It's like the lesson that you get out of it
Yeah.
is what the character learns here. And it's the difference between all of their failed attempts and their final successful attempt is the lesson that they learned.
Yeah.
So then that is the break into 3 is the realization, and then the finale is the actual scene of the climax synthesis. So that's the finale. It's like a fight or like a goal scene reaching a climax point and gaining what they want, and then or not, sometimes not gaining what they want,
Right.
sometimes,
but either way, the final crescendo. Yeah.
And then that's beat 14. Beat 15 is the final image, and they stay the opposite of the opening image, but like something that shows that change has occurred.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Man, that is so true. Like as you're saying those, I think about so many different stories, especially like at the dawn of Netflix coming out and like all the money pumped into like original content, and then all these other like producers who like basically everybody's getting a budget to make anything. And then it's like you watch the trailer and I feel like I see 15 points in a trailer now where I'm like, I just saw the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't need to watch this. I already saw the entire thing happen. I know that's the love interest. I know that was the wise guy. I know that is where they failed. I know that's the low point. That's the high point. That's the resolution. And the only thing they leave out is seeing the changed world. And you're like, man, I don't need to see that. Like, I like that. That's not really why I stick around.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. That's wild. I see like, but there are points of that. It's not, I mean, because you can absolutely write amazing stories off of that. But for, like just the idea of there's not one way to do any of this, and you shouldn't like lock into one way to write your stories or anything like that. But you should appreciate all ways that have been done and have successfully made stories. Like be open to it. Just at least see it and see and like look at it as objectively as possible. When hearing you talk about this one, like the promise of premise, that makes a lot of sense. And that really like snaps with me where I'm like, that's an element of that I absolutely can apply to my storytelling that I feel like is lacking, where I will have this badass idea that I'm so into it because I fill in all these gaps that they're understood to me. So I don't show them in the pitch, but someone who's just stepping into this, like I need to give them the flourish that is getting me stoked, like, and have fun with that. Like dive into that promise of the premise.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. And there was a couple other points in that I thought was really cool. I would love to put those 15 points on the Discord or the website, either or, somewhere where everyone can go and kind of read through those too and chop them up.
We can make
cool.
a blog post maybe, or link to something about with the list. I don't want to run into legal trouble with like trying to represent it, but like I don't know. We'll see.
We'll figure out something. But that is really cool.
Our philosophy with any of these things, like you said, there's not one right way to do it. And I certainly, like, I was talking about learning this in my screenwriting class, and I remember when I learned it, like how resistant I am to outlining things. And I know that when I write, I like to just start at the beginning and just write in voice and discover the things at the same time as the characters. And obviously that's like, it's in many ways going to be incompatible with a class that is like trying to go through things in a certain way for people. But I'm just wanted to talk to my professor about the way that I work and see what he thought about it. And he basically told me, that's when I learned the term intuitive writing, which we've now say quite a bit on here. But he told me about, he said like, that's called intuitive writing. It sounds like you like to do intuitive writing, which is just writing off the cuff and figuring it out as you go, which is cool. He said like a lot of great stories were written intuitively. So like, it's certainly not, if you are writing that way, it's certainly not something to shy away from, but it's not something that you can teach. And here at the university, we're in the business of teaching. And he basically was like, one day you might find that you sit down and you don't have just like all the right words coming to you automatically. And you'll wish that you had like a way to structure yourself that you could just like put in chair time and work would get done. And like these structures are a way of doing that. So like, this is certainly not something to interfere with your inspiration. These aren't to break your like, they can be used to break your story and make it something like maybe more palatable to like a wider audience, you know, something that is going to like hit like certain subconscious points that like the mainstream media would be looking for, which may or may not be what you want to do. So right. Breaking your story into the 3-act structure or the 15-point beat sheet could certainly do something like that for you. But if you have inspiration, this is not to say these are necessary things that your story is a failure if it doesn't fit into one of these. It's like, if you wrote a story that's good that doesn't fit into one of those, it's like that's inspiration. Like, that's a great thing that you should not be like hiding. That's just like, hey, I did something original and cool.
Yeah, but also if you just tear off on inspiration and you're running and running and running and running and running, you hit a wall, you may like any of these techniques would be great to like look into and just to think about your story as you read over them, like a 3-act structure with your story, like as inspirations led you to what point, and then be like, okay, where do I go from this? Okay, well, I'm already here, I want to get here. Okay, so is there an A, B, C to get there? Like, maybe that would help me just seeing like what Ben and I were kicking around, where we were sharing both these different approaches, was they like Ben and I both are very intuitive writers, and we don't like structure. Like, literally, the more structure that you have on a story, for me, makes me bored of writing. And because I want to hop in the driver's seat and experience the course as it reveals itself. And so I will spend a long time making a world and a character, and then I'll just hop in and start driving around, and that's kind of how a story will unfold for me. But I also hit writer's block a lot that sometimes lasts for years. And I want to figure my way out of that. So the whenever I hit that like blank canvas edge of my inspiration, what I've found has been really, and this is what I was sharing with Ben, was that what I found has been really beneficial for me is like reaching out to one of these structuring exercises for a very loose, just an idea, just for a little loose inspiration over my blank canvas. Like, okay, so let me take my story. Where do I want to go with it? Where am I now? I just need a few points on this. I just need a little paint here. I just need a little bit. Is this light? Is this funny? Is this time to get conflict? Is this time to like work in a B story? Is this time to do this? Oh, you know what? I should work in a B story right now. Okay, cool. I got an idea for B story. Okay, boop. Turn that structure off. Boom. Now I'm going to hop in and start driving down B story, and I'm going to allow myself to be there. You know, like, it's just, for me, that's kind of what works out better. But everyone's going to be different. People are going to be more on the structure side or more on the intuitive side. I find myself a little bit in the middle, a little bit more intuitive leaning. How about you? What do you think? Like, have you in, like, can you recall like reaching out at points to like drag in a little structure just to keep your intuitive momentum rolling?
Yeah, I mean, like doing these exercises in school, like my screenplay is certainly the longest thing that I've written. And so I can say that I did this, you know, the 3-act structure, the 15-point beat sheet. Those were all things that I broke my story into. So this was like something that I had written intuitively, like in some stages, but like it was out, not, I never made outlines for it. I just like would sort of write through like beginning chapters, and I would just think through the story a lot. And I was writing it in my head for like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And I got to the point in college where I was writing it as my screenplay, and it was not a traditional story. It was like, it was actually, so when I started writing it, I think I was like 13, and I wrote out like the first like 20 pages as like chapter 1, and I gave it to a writer friend, and he gave me back like feedback on it, and he pretty much just predicted exactly what was going to happen through the whole story, and which characters were going to be like traitors, and like what the true nature of every character was. And I was like, I guess it was all very obvious. And so I decided to just take everything that he said was going to happen and do the opposite. And like, so every character that was originally going to be like a good guy, I was like, how would I make it that they're actually like have evil motivations? And all the characters that I initially had been planning to make evil, I was like, and how would they actually be like doing something good behind the scenes? And so I came out with this story that was like this totally twisted up, like upside down world where like by the end the character learns that everything he's been told is a lie, and like he's been in like all these, so like this story was very strange, and it did not follow any sort of traditional structure. And when I started breaking it in the class, I remember the professor at one point, he asked me, he was like, do you think that this improved your story? And I was like, I think it like in a way, like it polished it. Like it was never this complete before. So it helped me, you know, to complete it. It helped me flesh out like all the point A to point B's. That becomes a full story. So like it was definitely helpful in directing me and doing that. But it's like, yeah, I do sort of love the idea of intuitive writing, and also I probably would love the version of it more that is the full non-Hollywoodized 15-point beat sheet version. But that version would have been a lot harder to write. Right. And so like you were saying, that's sort of my problem. It's like I want to be an intuitive writer, and I think that my ideas do best in that zone. But as you were saying, I find myself having practical restrictions and a lifespan, and needing to do things with certain levels of compromise on the level of polish, or like
the blank page is too big. It's just way too big. I need something.
Yeah, it's something to rein in, and that's, I think, where the important distinction is. Like, it's like something to use to help me to not have to do as much.
Yeah.
And so like they're useful tools when you use them in those ways.
Yeah, no, I see that. Like I said earlier, like matchstick structure, paper walls, like something to just like guide your focus, but you can easily break through them if you need to. But just having that little bit of like, we even talked about this in Bloodborne, like just having like a hallway to run down. I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I can hop in and just game this, like, you know, but having an open world thing, I'm like, okay, I need to think. I could go anywhere. Okay, I don't know how I want to approach this. It really translates the stories the same way. So we were talking about how to take since we're both intuitive writers, we both like hopping in the driver's seat. we both respect these like more structured approaches, and if you prefer these structured approaches, like that, we're not saying that our approach is better or anything like that. We're just relating, and
we're coming up with our own structure method now, seeding, right?
Yes.
And so we're like what would be our perfect one if we were going to make one that perfectly captured our tastes for intuitive versus structural writing.
Yeah, exactly. Like how do we stay true to ourselves while implementing some and respecting other approaches? So we took our story that we seeded in the last one. We did rapid prototyping on a story idea, and we came up with what did we come up with? We came up with an alien who crashed out in a fantasy world.
Yeah, he crashes down and he has to go on an adventure to find the pieces of his lost ship to save his planet, to save the new planet that he falls in love with in his time there.
Yes, this is the last. I just found out the last thing. An alien is sent to conquer a planet, but he crash lands and loses his memory. He is not the first of his kind to be found this way, and those who find him have learned to see such a discovery as an opportunity for their people to gain power. His race has been unsuccessfully sending ships to conquer the planet for ages, and he is proof that their technology is improving, and there are sure to be more. It is up to the main character to A, assemble the evidence of his origin, B, awaken his power, C, uncover his past, D, rewrite his destiny. That's where we left off on the outline of last one. And now you're going to see here as we talk about this that these are definitely paper walls that we're not afraid to bust through and tear down. But just having this allowed this conversation to start going. So where are we at right now?
Yeah, so now we took that idea, and as we were saying before, we came up with this sort of loose 3-book idea of like, well, we decided we thought that the story we had come up with seemed like it would be difficult to really do justice, fitting in less than 600 pages. We discussed the option of doing it like a 600-page book that God knows how long it would take us writing that. And then we discussed the option of writing 3 books as 200-word books, like a trilogy of maybe like young adult fiction. Yeah, that we would just write the first one and maybe write the others, but just start with one.
If we could just get through the first.
Yeah, just try to write through one book that has a satisfying arc that could then possibly continue.
And what's funny about that is that in talking about it, we were like, okay, how could we apply the 3-act structure to this idea that we have? And then we did, and we're like, okay, so this would have to happen in Act 1. This would happen in Act 2. This is after a couple idea sessions. And then it was like, oh shit, like I think each one of these acts is a book. like there's too much going on for it to be one act. We know where this wants to go. So we're like, okay, so we know what we want to happen at the end, and we know what needs to happen in the beginning. So let's just focus on the first book. Mm-hmm. And let's zoom in on that and try to make like some kind of loose structure around that we can just hop in on and start chopping up.
Yeah. And so we came up with some story points of what's happening to this character, like the adventures that are sort of first awakening their powers on this planet, the first interactions that they have with people. We sort of fleshed out just the direction of where his motivations are, where he's going, what the conflicts are. And we thought it would be cool to today jump into some live writing and jump into one of those scenes and just write out a little bit. I don't know how much time we have. It is, we're on the clock here with this episode, but we've got a little time. We can write a little bit and
yeah,
just basically as an exercise, write together, and you guys will just see Micah's and our writing process.
Yeah,
part of Right Guys.
This is it.
What the heck?
How about that? Why don't we do a little writing and right, guys?
Yeah.
But yeah, something. Like we were talking about how we both flourish in intuitive writing scenarios. Yeah. Once we have a good prompt, and then we just hop in. We also like bouncing off of each other, and so it's like that's what his professor told him, and that's what you'll read elsewhere. Is like how do you don't really learn intuitive writing. You just kind of do it. You just kind of feel it, and it goes that. But I feel like there's probably people out there who may actually flourish in intuitive writing that haven't really tried it because they don't know that they can, because you may be bogged down by a lot of rules that you were taught early on, and you didn't know that you can throw all those out the window and just kind of start writing, and you don't really have to know where you're going. You can just have fun. So we were talking about this next segment, like what if we just did a little live write and just did an example of intuitive writing and see what happened. Like maybe the best way to teach it is to show it. And so, yeah, we're gonna kick the can around on the first part, Act 1 of of Alien Story, whatever the hell we're calling it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows if this will end up being the very first scene, but just
something will come out of this. Like whether we keep any of it or all of it.
Yeah. So there's going to be this other character that we're starting the story through the eyes of, who is basically where it starts is there's a bounty hunter, or not necessarily a bounty hunter. He's basically one of the king's men of this kingdom that this story is mainly set in. And he is sent out to investigate a town that has basically been like totally razed, and like all the people have been murdered in the town. It was just like a mysterious event in the kingdom that no one really knows what happened. And so the king sends out this like total badass, one of his like most trusted like King's Guard investigators to go look into this problem. And so we are going to pick up the story from that like hunter's perspective, as he's just so in this world, right, separated from what we all know from the behind the scenes about the story. This is ostensibly a fantasy novel in a fantasy world where a town has been murdered, and now there's a hunter going out to investigate the murder of this fantasy town.
Right.
So the hunter will find the alien, and then we'll sort of see that, there's like weirder races, at least in this fantasy world, or like there's more to this. There's something else going on with the main character, whose perspective we'll switch to after that point. But we thought it would be cool to, not knowing much more than that, just hop in to show how Micah and I do intuitive writing like this. Just off an idea like that, starting with something like the character tracking down the alien's path. So Micah, do you have a Word document or something open?
I got a notes guy right here. I can hop in on. I'm not a fast typer, but also I'm thinking one thing I'd like to know going into this is like this guy that we're writing, this bounty hunter, like I want to know like some kind of attitude. Is this a Dog the Bounty Hunter type? Is this a like a freaking Doc Holliday type? Is this like who is this? Like what's his personality?
What's the first tool that you brought into the toolbox? How we made the robot that serves drinks in the dog shelter.
Oh, you want to roll a roll?
Well, not roll a roll. There was the one that was like the three, you flip three things on their head.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah, it was throw that thing down, flip it, and reverse it.
Yeah. Let's do that to make the bounty hunter.
I love it. Okay. Let's do it. All right. So I'm gonna say bounty hunter.
Or he's not a bounty hunter, right? So he's like a
hunter. Are we bounty hunter, and then we throw that thing down, flip it, and reverse it on bounty hunter? What's the three things that we know about bounty hunters?
Yeah, but this guy's not a bounty hunter.
Oh,
right.
Oh yeah. He's like just a detective.
Detective. Like
King's, but he's being sent out to That's right. He's
Like
being sent out.
Hunter, I think Hunter would be a good, like that's a description of what he does. Like the king would send, detective,
Why?
detective.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I'm thinking. Because why would the king send a hunter to investigate a
Well, it's like track whatever
mass
did
murder?
the thing.
A
Like, 'cause
tracker?
he's like mainly like looking through like, oh, where did it go? Like following the path of like,
We'll say detective.
yeah, okay.
Because that kind of seems to
Yeah.
encompass it all. Like we're talking about a fantasy realm detective. Okay, so now we have gray aliens, we have elves, we have frost giants, we have dwarves, we have Batman. Like, let's go. Okay, so detective. Okay, let's say 3 things that we know about detectives that come to our mind immediately.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say dark and confident.
Okay. I expect like careful, like they like measuring all their steps.
Yes, meticulous.
Yeah.
Okay. I see. I'm definitely. And this is. I'm seeing a man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
Organized,
I'm seeing organized. That
intelligent.
kind of falls under meticulous and careful, intelligent. Yeah. We got a number of them now. We got 5 that we're working with.
Yeah.
So now let's flip these on its head. Let's give 3 different routes for these top 3, and then see if we want to move on to the other 2. Okay, so dark and confident. What's a totally different route we could go with that?
Yeah, like he could be really bright. Like he could be like almost sinister in how optimistic he is about everything. Like
Okay.
like
Yeah,
like a clown type, like always wearing that Cheshire smile.
oh yeah, I like that. That's nasty. How do I write that? Cheshire smile is probably the best thing that you could have ever said. Eerie confidence or eerie optimism.
Yeah, sickly optimism, and
Sickly
because
optimistic.
it's past. It's too far past. He's like, because he's clearly has done terrible things and does terrible.
Oh,
things
he's deranged.
and is
Yeah, like he just knows that he's gonna find it, and that's it. And whatever failure happens, that's just the next step on the way. Like,
now, but does he also have to be the opposite of confident though? Because dark and confident. So like that's the light side. He's not dark. He's light. But is he like light and like, and he doesn't really know what's gonna happen next?
okay, so yeah, he would be. So
I guess it's another type of confidence.
the best reversal would
Yeah.
be an aloof optimism.
Yeah.
He's not. He's optimistic, so he's sunny, and he's not confident. He's aloof. He's not really. He's just fully sold out for optimism. Like it's not based in like confidence. He doesn't know that he's doing it. He's just like, yeah, sure, blah blah blah.
And then do we want to go other directions for these, or are we just doing a thing?
You know
for
what?
each of the 3?
This is where we're getting hung up on. Dark and confident should be 2 different things.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So dark would be optimistic. And then let's give another one for dark. What's another different thing we would think? I see like dark. Like I kind of see like that sinister like vengeance. Like I'm gonna get him. And then optimistic, like is like the opposite of that. But then also like sad, like just like droopy is not like
Blue.
dark. It's blue. Yeah. Okay. So let's say blue. Give me another one for dark.
Yeah. Another thing that would be opposite of dark would be like a funny character.
True. Lighthearted or yeah.
Yeah, he's just like a good guy. He's
comedic.
Just like and he's fun and he's a good sense of humor. It'd be like
like
that
a
would be
jester.
one opposite of dark thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
the jester almost goes into like the first one. It can start to become like is he like just like sinisterly optimistic? I mean, it can,
True.
but then
Well,
so like
let's hop into confident right now. All right,
yeah.
so we got dark. Now let's see confident. What's
Yeah, I mean, one that comes to mind is one of the ones that we're gonna have to flip on its head later. But one idea of the opposite of confidence could be like meticulousness, because like
yes.
not rushing in first, but like, and obviously this is one of the words later that we meant it to work against, but like meticulousness or like a um measuring twice, cutting once, like never like assuming that he's gonna like shoot from the hip, never assuming that things are gonna go right. It would be always hedging his bets, always keeping one eye on the exit.
So strategic.
Yeah,
Well, you can gain confidence from
yeah,
strategy
yeah.
and from meticulousness. And meticulousness or confidence can be a byproduct of meticulousness. I think what we need to hit here is like completely unsure of himself. He has no idea if he's doing the right thing. He's a complete novice. Um, so I'm just put novice, like a noob. I'm gonna put noob.
Hmm.
Um, so you got confidence, then you got the noob, has no idea. Let's say terrified,
Hmm.
way in over his head. One more. Uh, so dark. So we got dark instead, optimistic, blue, comedic. Then we have confident. We have noob, terrified,
I think just careful.
and
Careful can work.
okay, like
Anxious. That's kind of the same as terrified. Similar.
what about like a germaphobe or something like that, like completely just like always on edge, like ugh, ugh. Like how would you say that? Not anxious, but just kind of like
Detective monk.
uh, yeah, basically. Um, what? Yeah, let's say that. Let's say like hypochondriac. What would that be?
Yeah, germaphobe works, but like the word is escaping me.
Let's say or uncomfortable, which
Uncomfortable.
noob kind
Yeah,
of wraps in,
uncomfortable.
but
I'd like uncomfortable actually.
let's say uncomfortable. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, we can draw on as many or as few of these that we want. So the next one that we have is careful, meticulous.
Right.
So let's
Okay.
break that down. So reckless.
Yeah.
uh, give me another one.
Um, another one could be um, like the I'm trying to think of like the opposite of like attention to detail. Isn't necessarily recklessness, but like um
Like he's always missing what's in front of him,
yeah,
type thing.
yeah. Yeah, he's
Yeah, what
really
would that be
good at
called?
because as a detective, like you would have to be good at observation somehow, but maybe he's like good at finding things peripherally. He can never see what's right in front of him.
Oh, I
Like
like that.
that could be an opposite of meticulousness, just like a peripheral vision. Like
So he'd be sensory, or no, he'd be like, yeah. What is that? We're missing a word here. He's he just he would be intuitive, right?
yeah, that could be an
Um,
opposite of meticulous. Yeah,
yeah, and he's not careful and meticulous. He's intuitive and just taking like, okay, yeah,
yeah.
reckless.
Reckless captures a lot of the opposite of meticulousness. It's hard to.
It does, yeah. Okay, so what would be a different than reckless, different than intuitive, and different than meticulous? Um, let's say he is, let's just say like, let's just say unorganized. Let's say messy.
Yeah.
He's not reckless. Like he's not that. That's pretty extreme. Let's just say he's just messy. Like he just loses shit. Like he just accident prone. You know,
Yeah.
like clumsy. Clumsy would be a good one.
How are we gonna make this guy a badass?
Hold on. So
The king's most trusted.
I'm gonna take out intuitive. No, I'm gonna take out reckless. And I'm gonna put clumsy. Well, I guess I don't have to take anything out. I'm just gonna put reckless back in. And I'm gonna put clumsy, and I'm gonna put messy. Because we can just draw from all these. I do want to dive into man. So man was the first thing that I was just seeing a guy. And when I talked to him, I was seeing a guy. So that's something that we should break.
Yeah.
So obviously woman. What else would be different?
I mean, obviously we've got elves and dwarves,
Elves, dwarves,
dragonborn.
Oh fuck, dude! I haven't written a dragonborn. That would be sick.
Could be, you know, we've talked about grays existing in this world. Could be a gray that hunts grays. Be that
that's true.
King has one of his own.
He slays one of his own in the very beginning.
I guess, yeah. They're not. This guy's not necessarily doesn't know he's going out to fight a gray. I guess they're just investigating the murder. But
okay, well then let's start from the bottom. We have a man. We have a. So we're not using man. We're not using dark. Well, this is a detective that is about to be pursuing our main character. He is not going to be dark. He's not going to be confident. He's not going to be careful or meticulous. He's not going to be a man. Let's start from the bottom. Instead of a man, what's he going to be? Is he? Well, a woman could be an elf, man or woman. Dwarf could be man or woman. Dragonborn could be man or woman. Gray, I think, is asexual. I don't know. But
I think this one's a big opportunity for us because I think with a lot of the later ones, we're going to have to be accepting some pretty heavy disadvantages to this character. And I think that this could be the selling point. This could be, you know, the big part of what they offer is just being one of these kind of like, yeah, they're like really messy, sloppy, like no attention to detail, but they make great detectives because they're these things. So this could be an opportunity to make it make sense.
Okay. How about, you know where I'm leaning? Dragonborn. Like a Dragonborn just sounds like they are just resistant. They're long life. You know, like they can it would make sense to send if your detective is not going to be dark, confident, meticulous, whatever, at least they're going to be resistant. You know, like this thing can take the shit.
But is starting a story from the perspective of a Dragonborn, is that a little too like high concept fantasy?
So what I like about it is I don't think we have to reveal that it's a Dragonborn yet. I think that we can live in this person's skin for a while. He can get killed. And then maybe in a later thing, the king is like, wait, whatever this was killed a Dragonborn? And it's like, well, yeah, but she was one of our newest out, blah, blah. You know, it's like, yeah, it was still a Dragonborn though. No one in that village, no human could take that down. Like, you know, and it's like, you know, you could learn that then.
Yeah.
We could sprinkle some clues into like maybe it has a tail, maybe it knocks something over. its tail knocks something over. It's like, what this fucking thing has a tail? What is this? What am I reading?
Yeah.
But that's kind of out of this list. That's what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we ran with that, if it's a dragonborn, I don't know if it's a guy or girl yet. Maybe we figure that in the story. But okay, is it a reckless, clumsy, or messy, or intuitive? Which one do we like best there? It doesn't have to be all of them. Just let's pick one to add to them.
I think reckless.
Really? I'm kind of leaning towards clumsy.
Okay.
Thinking about the tail, like I just feel like there's some moments.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's good.
Reckless, I feel like, is like just not. You gotta kind of not give a fuck to be reckless, right?
Sure.
Do you think so? Am I off or?
I don't know. I mean, like,
clumsy is kind of like you're trying, but you're messing up.
No, that is like what recklessness is. Yeah, it's like it's not. It's like a throwing caution to the wind.
Okay, well, do we want to sprinkle that into him? Do you like that better?
It's a flavor for a character. I mean, like, I think clumsy maybe has a little more personality to it. Like, it's a little less common as like a trait for this type of character. I think so. Makes sense to throw in.
If we went clumsy, I feel like, I mean, reckless does make him more of a badass.
Right. It depends. That depends the direction we want to go. Like you were saying with the Dragonborn, we could say it's a new recruit, and it could still get the point across that like it is a big deal for him to defeat the Dragonborn. But like, I don't know. I like it. I do like it being like one of the king's like finest guard.
Let's go reckless. I like that. I'm in on that. Let's go a reckless Dragonborn. Next is they're not confident. They're a noob. I think we both like that idea of it being a noob, like like one of his new ones they just sent out.
Yeah, could be.
He's a headstrong Dragonborn. This is maybe his first mission.
Yeah, I mean, but if we wanted to establish him being like a badass, I think that does make that more difficult.
But his first mission, and he's reckless. He's headstrong. Like he kind of acts like a badass. He approaches every situation like he knows what's going to happen. He's very God, reckless kind of has some confidence to it. Maybe.
I mean, it has carelessness.
Carelessness. Okay, cool. Noob, terrified, or uncomfortable? Which one do you like better?
I love uncomfortable.
Okay.
I think, like,
okay. He's reckless and uncomfortable.
It brings in like a monk-esque personality, like you were saying, of like OCD or something, like where he's just like always bothered by something, like never at rest, like always like that. Always has some bone to pick in his head about like something going on, or her head, and then like I think that one feels like it can really work into the character well.
I like that too. I also think it mellows recklessness because they could be reckless about wanting to get out of their uncomfort.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, cool. All right, I like that. So we have a Dragonborn who's reckless, but also is uncomfortable and reckless. And instead of dark, they're optimistic, blue, or comedic.
They're all good. I kind of like blue. Good. I feel like blue is like what's fitting to the character at this point.
They don't like being alone. Holy shit.
Uncomfortable,
reckless, sad Dragonborn. Oh my god, I love this. Okay.
It's the opposite of a detective, right? An uncomfortable, sad, reckless Dragonborn.
Oh man, I love it. Okay. Let's do it. Let's go. So where's our setting? Where is he? Let's drop a pin on the map. Let's drop a pin on the map. Where's she dropping? Where is this sad dragon-born,
Yeah, I mean, like,
reckless, uncomfortable detective landing.
oh yeah. So like these are, I mean, so these are all traits to know about the character, not necessarily things that are gonna be worked in. They could just be
No, we
the
don't have to. We don't
background
have to
for
show
us
any
to.
of this yet. This is just us for us to
So
like
yeah, so
step
like
into skin.
yeah, I would think maybe tracking down the murderer, but like, or maybe getting to the town and like seeing the carnage. Maybe, like, I'm just trying to think about this journey of going to find the alien. What are the landmark moments that we actually are touching on in the scenes?
How fresh are we? How long ago did the alien escape?
Um,
Are we walking into smoldering ruins? Are we walking into like a kind of overgrown spot? Like
I mean, this certainly should not be like a huge part of the story, right? This is just like our intro,
we
and
just need
this
to
is
get
almost
going.
it's almost a way to cut time more than anything else because like we're not showing, the alien land from the sky and then when the town finds him and everything that happens with him. We're skipping all that to a point where newsflash, the town's murdered. They're all dead. I wonder who did it, but the only context we've already talked about it in is that this character did it. So you already know that the main character did it, but they are investigating that at the beginning. And
I think trade routes probably happen like within days.
yeah,
So I don't think that like something could happen to this town without someone finding out within days, and word travels fast. So maybe he's on scene 2 days after, 3 days after, and
okay,
maybe we pick up after he or she's been there for a while and they're about to move on. That could be a cool way to like hop in and get moving real quick because we want to get our point is to like flesh out this perspective and then kill him,
right.
right?
Yes, this character. I mean, like, and we're not going to get to all that today. If we, we might end up writing a paragraph of. It's 1 a.m. where I am.
Yeah. But we have a new character, so that's good.
Yeah,
And this is how we write. So
yeah, this is putting the rubber to the road of what has to happen. But let's get to writing this first paragraph. So let's say we're starting in a town.
and we're talking about everybody. We're talking about the absolute beginning of the book. You crack the book open, and this is what you start reading.
Yeah.
So that's why it's good. You want to get some foreground built out before you start hopping in. But yeah, so what do you think about that? What do you think about like we hop into his or her skin, like after they've been investigating the town for a couple days, they've been there just like soaking it in.
And so, what are we hoping to show with the rest of this scene in the town? Are we hoping to show how he killed them? What his methods are? Are we hoping to build up that this is a scary foe that we're going to go fight? Is that the tension that we want to be pulling on, or do we want to be showing something else about the story here?
I think that if we're through their eyes, this bounty hunter, this freaking detective's eyes, I think that we need to be
Bad.
well, I think that we need to. Yeah, I think that they need to see. I think this detective is good. I think they're a good person. Like they're just doing their job, and they don't necessarily want to be there. They're uncomfortable. They're a little reckless. They're they're blue. They're sad. They don't like this. Like this is, and they're discovering that this is just a total massacre, and there was great power here. It needs to be stopped. Like whatever this was left, I think that it needs to see that this was. Maybe it needs to see that this is a little otherworldly, because I think this person sends a report back before they die, and that report is what gives the hints to do further investigation after they die.
Okay.
So I think
So
we
maybe
pick
they're
up
walking
on
around with like a notepad, like writing.
yeah. I think we pick up a couple days in of them investigating the site, and they're about ready to like, uh, and maybe our character has not run off. Maybe our character is like nearby.
Okay. Yeah.
What
Like
do you
just
think?
hiding out. But like we decided that they wanted to run away for a purpose, right?
That's true.
So
So
they're
they would
moving
take
toward a
off,
goal.
especially if they just did that. They wouldn't stay near it.
Yeah.
They would flee. Yeah. So how do they meet?
I think that the hunter's just moving faster and is moving through, and that's where we're picking up. Is like they're just seeing the town as they pass through and like, yep, this is carnage.
Okay. All right. It got there. Yep. Verified. I say we pick up on the detective making notes
Yeah.
and basically like okay, let's just hop in.
Yeah.
What are you seeing?
20, it's like it could start with a description of how many dead, like 25 dead from like 25 dead from like bodily from like external bodily wounds. 30 more bodies completely like decimated, like or evidence of 30 more bodies completely decimated. I don't know how big we want to make the town.
I'm seeing this as like a report. Like I'm seeing our Dragonborn detective on top of his or her horse, not wanting to get off because they're very uncomfortable where they're at, and their horse is their safe space. But they're just like on top of the horse and like writing down what they're seeing, and maybe they don't want to get off the horse at all, so they're trying to get the horse to go into areas that just like they once they're on the horse they're comfortable. And so it's like I could see it opening with like 25 dead, external bodily wounds, evidence of approximately 30 other bodies by way of 3, 6, 9, 12, 120 body parts strewn about, approximately 28 left arms, 20 blah blah blah. Like they're just like itemizing, they're going through.
Yeah, I think the Dragonborn's name is Thalia.
I like Thalia, and now it's a woman.
And yeah, so then after jotting down those notes, she should be reaching for some piece of evidence, but she's trying to reach it from horseback.
I like that. So I'm just going to say Talia's report. It's like 25 dead, external body wounds, evidence of approximately 30 other victims. All this will change, but we'll say I kind of like the idea of like itemizing like about 120 left hands, or whatever. I don't know. We'll figure it all the numbers.
Yeah,
out.
Maybe mentioning some bodies in a pond in the center of the town or something.
Yes, we need to hit that early on. Yada yada. What attack did he use? I like the gravitational thing. I think you awaken a gravitational, and when I think about that, I think about everyone getting smashed. So
there would be multiple ways of using it. And we've talked about like
thrown.
Him awakening his powers. So like we don't know exactly what he's awakened yet, and maybe this first burst was like him using all of them. But it certainly could be anything. Like he like with the gravitational powers, there's a lot that he could do. So like having huge boulders on top of people, that like how is this moved?
Or he just throws the entire town into the air, like reverses the gravity the entire time, and everyone soars up, and then he like stops his power, and they all just fall and smash on the ground like eggs on the pavement.
Yeah.
And then if there were boaters in the lake, their boats would be smashed and their bodies would be floating in the lake.
Yeah.
Which we talked about the lake being the crater that he fell in, and like typically when people find these craters, they form towns around the fallen one that they found, and the crater has filled with water by this point and is now a lake.
Pond, yeah.
Or pond, yeah. A perfect circle pond. Okay, yeah. Yada, yada, yada. I'm just making a note. Yada, yada, yada. So, yeah, at this point, we don't know how long they've been here. We don't need to know how long they've been there. But, okay, so did this...
I would maybe write something like it was breaking out of the narrative of writing, and it's like Talia raised her gaze to revisit the carnage.
Okay.
And held back a gag of vomit.
One of many she had since her time here. Something like that. She could not wait to leave.
It's better to show that. We should show that.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Um,
she couldn't wait to leave. We'll rewrite that, but yeah, I like that.
So,
I'd like to work in a little. Okay, so So she's in the town. She's seen the town. She's seen the damage. She's barfing. She's trying to hold it back. She's tried to multiple times. So we've got the uncomfortable. We don't have to hit the rest of the things right now, but moving the story, we need to get her on the route. Like, how does she find the trail of dude?
Oh, dude, I mean, that's gonna take longer than a paragraph.
No, I know. We're gonna expand on this, but
yeah, I mean, like. Do you want to get her to that point while we're writing here?
No, we don't have to. All right,
okay.
So she couldn't wait to leave. Let's see. Well, then let's touch on some other little flourishes of her.
Yeah, I mean, like just getting anything in, like it's just the opening couple paragraphs, like establishing, the town, the scene of carnage that's happening. Like, True. How do you like writing about dead bodies and gore?
So okay, all right. Let me step into this. Talia raised her gaze to revisit the carnage and held back a gag of vomit. One of many she had since her time here. She couldn't wait to leave. Okay, so she's. I like the idea of her being sad. It's like, why was she always chosen?
So it could say like so many dead. What a waste of something their God's grace. What a waste of like Akinor's blessings.
Waste of the Worm Lord's blessing, or something, like some kind of dragon. Like what's a great dragon name?
You could do like the Worm Father or something with W-I.
Yeah. What a waste of the Great Worm's blessing. Those say the Great Worm of the Great Worm's blessing. And why did she always get pegged with the bloody ones? like sitting there just like sad, like she doesn't want to be here. This is the most opposite of her. She of all
the recruits, she felt she'd had the weakest stomach since training.
Of all the recruits, she had the weakest stomach through training. I like that. That's good. So we got so far in our live, right? We have created the detective. We have created the scene. We have built a personality. They are a dragonborn woman named Talia, who is reckless, uncomfortable, and sad. But a dragonborn nonetheless. You can't forget that. Like that says a lot. And the story opens up with Talia's report: 25 dead, external bodily wounds, evidence of approximately 30 other victims, 12 left hands, 15 right, yada yada yada. Damage synonymous with gray attack. Maybe throw everything into the air and crash. We'll fill that in later. Talia raised her gaze to revisit the carnage and held back a gag of vomit, one of many she had since her time here. She couldn't wait to leave. So many dead. What a waste of the Great Worm's blessing. And why did she always get stuck with the bloody ones? Of all the recruits, she had the weakest stomach through training.
There you go,
dude. We're rolling. That's momentum right there. She's there. I think maybe she spends a day there. I kind of want to spend some time with her. I want her to
She can't spend a day in the town. She's got to get on the road.
Think
We're
so?
trying to get her on the road, Micah.
Okay, but
you're just saying how quickly can we get her on the path towards it?
Are we gonna hop into the? Do we not hop into the alien's perspective until she meets the alien?
Is
that what you're thinking?
But yeah. Okay. I don't know. Like, I mean, it could go either way.
Or were we like, this is happening, we write like a short chapter here and then hop to this, that, and the other, and then with the alien's perspective, and then hop back and like she's like close on the heels.
I mean, we certainly could.
Like next entry.
I would like maybe even bringing that in more when the next guy's hunting him, who we know is more into like alien hunting.
Okay.
But that could be like, what if instead of killing Thalia like survives the encounter and it reports back and then is part of the detective force that hunts him in the future?
Ooh, okay. Okay. I like this. What about if she finds him and he does the same thing he did to the village? He like reverses gravity, like throws her into the air, but she like falls into a tree or something like that, and tumbles down and survives, and is like scurries back to tell the tale, and that is what like cues the great king or whatever to be like, wait, they did what?
Yeah,
I mean, may have something much bigger on our hands. I'm gonna send in my specialists, the Men in Black.
I even would like it if he doesn't necessarily use like his strong move or whatever, like, or if that's something that he can't even control yet or didn't know how to, or doesn't want to kill, and like, so he just fights her and she survives, like however it happens, like, and she doesn't need to have a crazy move to happen to her to report back, hey, there was a thing with a big triangle face and two massive black eyes, and the king would be like, I think I know what that is. And
yeah,
so like, yeah, that fight scene could really go like anyway, as long, and I think having her survive it and report back, maybe he doesn't even know she survives. Maybe it's like he thinks that he just like deals with her, and then like she comes back unexpectedly to the reader.
Right.
Her character. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So in that case,
I like that.
In that case, I would be cool with having a sort of flashback between them, and seeing her like spend more time on the hunt, and like maybe spend some time in the town, than chasing him through the. I can see that too.
But let's establish this. What's the trail? How does she find him?
Yeah. So what would the trail be? I mean, like we discussed this investigator obviously being in like a sort of like surveyor, ranger type, like looking at tracks on the ground type role. I mean, like I think about like maybe him on the run being in a super like flustered state from just having murdered an entire town. Maybe he's injured himself. So
I feel like he'd be riding a horse, right?
Okay. Yeah.
take a horse. Like
so maybe
at this point he's been living with the, which, oh my God, I just love the idea of thinking of an alien riding a horse. It just looks good.
Maybe
in my mind.
Yeah. Maybe have the clues of like the stables are open. Or maybe
and all the horses are dead except for one stable and one horse unaccounted for.
or they're totally empty. And like, because I don't know if he would have been able to control it well enough to keep one alive. And
true.
Like, I think that the stables could either be empty, there could be one horse missing, and then following the horse's tracks, however that works. I mean,
okay.
Well, the detective could potentially just go to
track,
surrounding towns and start asking about like we don't necessarily, if we're saying we don't know how long that process lasts, if it's multiple chapters flashing back and forth, it could be the kind of thing where she's gathering clues on where he is for
That's true. That's true. Okay. I like that. Okay. So either way, she's in town now. We know who she is, and she is surveying the scene. She's very uncomfortable. She can't wait to get out of there. And so just in the fact that she doesn't want to be there much longer, I feel like, and she's a little reckless. Like, I feel like she would like prioritize her comfort over like gaining more clues and just be like, okay, I've seen enough. I'm going to check the other towns.
Yeah.
She goes to other towns. Like, she sees, stables. Okay. I can't be here anymore.
So what if the next paragraph starts like, Thalia was vexed. She had no clue what could have possibly initiated the bloodshed here, but neither had she any more patience to uncover it.
Changed 2 words, but I think they're sick. Thalia was vexed. She had no clue what could have conjured the bloodshed here, but neither did she wield the patience to uncover it.
She holstered her notebook at her side.
Holstered, great. She holstered the notebook at her side.
And then just quote the sentence, "Fuck this."
Fuck this. Fuck this. I love it. Okay. Hell yeah.
She, what would you call, like, whipping the reins on her?
Yeah, cracked the reins.
Yeah. She
spurred her steed.
Spurred her horse into a canter. Yeah, she spurred her steed into a canter. And
fuck this. She holstered her at her side. Fuck this. She breathed while spurring. She breathed and spurred her steed to canter out the village gate she came through. Or out. Out the gate. I don't know. What do you think?
Out toward the edges of the village limits.
She breathed and spurred her steed to canter toward. Well, hold on. Let's say like out. She spurred her steed to canter toward dim lights on the horizon.
And I think that could be a good place to say we have a little structure of like a little scene there that we could definitely add things to flesh out the details of like showing the town.
Yeah.
And maybe we want to go back now and like look at some of the sentences and look at how we would like massage them into.
What do you think about this in the last one? I'm putting this in italicized, which I've been messing around with this and I really like doing it. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but like in thought instead of spoken, like, and not putting it in like italicizing instead. But like, yeah, so Talia was vexed. She had no clue what could have conjured the bloodshed here, but neither did she wield the patience to uncover it. She holstered the notebook at her side. Fuck this, she breathed and spurred her steed steed to canter toward dim lights on the horizon. At least I can get a hot meal tonight.
That's good.
Yeah, and that's in her thought. I think that's
so
sick.
that's italicized, you're saying?
Yeah, that's italicized. At least I can get a hot meal tonight. She like spurred it, and she's like, "Man, I'm going to that." That's her. That's what she's thinking. I think this is great. I think we've got the ball rolling, and we have some deep color on this. We know where she's going.
Mm-hmm. We've got to get the clues.
Yeah,
track down.
yeah.
But this is what so this is like. We don't have like a ton of time to like just keep going. Like this is the kind of thing that just takes hours of dead air time to like to continue with, and it would be really hard to like keep making this like snappy and choppy and try to get through like a lot of like story turning points on air. But the essentially like the point of intuitive writing, like me and Micah bring up these challenges of like, but what are the clues going to be? Like, how's she actually going to come into like find out where he is? Like, that's what intuitive writing is all about, is like having those challenges set up, and in my experience you tackle them as you get to them. And it's like,
yeah,
we're writing out this scene. To me, like the question of how she finds his tracks is like, I won't know the answer till she does. Like I'm just writing out like, and she'll be seeing things, and then eventually she'll see something and it'll kind of make sense. And I don't know, like that's how it works. And like when it doesn't work, I guess you've got to go back to the drawing board and like go retool some things in the outline and the structure and how you're going to get from point A to point B. But ultimately, that's what we're trying to do is put ourselves in these positions to creatively synthesize our solutions as both readers and writers at the same time.
Yeah, don't fear the backspace. Like that's something that I commonly think about, where I'm like, writing something is way better than not writing something. And if I just throw off the mental pressures of everything I write being sick as soon as it comes out and not having to do any other drafts, then I sit in front of the screen forever. I had no idea when we started this episode how this story that we started last episode was going to start as we actually wrote the first lines of the chapter. You know, I had no idea who that Talia was even going to be. I didn't know that was even a character in the story. Mm-hmm. But just being open to it and just being like, yeah, sure, let's do it. All right, cool, let's go. All right, detective, that sounds cool. Let's do that. Man, this is sounding a little choppy. Let's throw the right guy's technique on it. Let's throw that thing down, flip it, and reverse it. All right, we did it. Now we have Talia, a dragonborn, like uncomfortable. Reckless detective, like new detective, who can't stomach the gore she's seeing, and she's like doing a kind of a quick report, and then she's bolting out of town to like go get a hot meal and just kind of like reset. And now we have a very human person, and something that I can't wait to like hop in and like see who she meets next. And also we have someone it's gonna suck when it's gonna be dramatic whenever she gets like you're gonna care whenever she gets into some altercation with our character, and you're gonna care when she doesn't die and she returns, and maybe like, who knows, maybe Talia ends up shedding her clumsy recklessness and becoming some badass throughout this entire, maybe this is like a side journey, who knows, but it all happened just now. This was not at all thought out. It was just about taking an idea, running with it, believing in it, and then just like, yeah, sure, let's just do that, and let's just get stoked on it and see what would happen.
Yeah, thanks for embarking with us on our reading and writing adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to hear just any inspiration that this brings, and any characters that they all come up with thinking about the same way, or any writer's block that you plow through, just embracing like, you know what, I'm just going to ride the seat of my pants for a minute and just blast through a couple things. Maybe I go back and change all of it. Maybe I don't change any of it. Either way, I will have done something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, dude, going through the exercise, I didn't know how it was going to go. Like you said, doing intuitive writing, I've already stated how difficult collaboration can be for me in general. Like, so the idea of writing with someone like directly in an experience like this is definitely one that I'm uncertain of, like how I'm going to be able to perform and get through. Like, because when I write, it's like a super silent in my head, like, just imagine this sentence and then like imagine the world. But it was interesting. I think I was able to get into the headspace and get a couple lines out, like get into character, get into the space and show the process a little bit. So it's cool.
The same for me, man. For me, the biggest thing on writing is getting a clear picture of what I'm looking at. And then I like to write that. Mm-hmm. And if I can like step into the scene, if I can know the person that I'm like, whose eyes I'm looking through, then I just kind of like step into like virtual reality and like look around. Ooh, what's that? Like, ooh. Ugh. Oh my God, there's a town. Okay, let's hammer this report out. I am getting out of here. Like, and then, just kind of running that way. That seems like, I guess if we want to get deep with it, I think writing is, well, I mean, this is what everyone's outlet is, but writing for me is an escape. Like it's an outlet, it's an escape. It's a way for me to kind of just hop into a world where I feel like I have all the control of, that I can just go anywhere, like I can free roam and embark in fantastic adventures.
Yeah. I'm thinking that this might be a good point to go into our challenges.
Let's do it. Yeah, I think so.
It's 1:40 now.
Good
Let's
God. Let's go. Yeah. We were talking about this episode and we were like, yep, all right, we'll just hop in. Let's do another like kind of condensed, snappy episode, maybe like an hour and a half. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the challenge for last week was to write a 50-word fantasy based off of either the prompt oracle or the prompt spell. And we shared everyone who submitted and talked about everywhere we thought that they could go. And now we have a number of them actually resubmitted and went along with the challenge, and we're going to share those and see where they decided to go with it.
Because it is late, and I would like to share all of them because we sort of saw all of them set up. We're not gonna take a ton of time on these. We're just gonna run through them and go through all of them and maybe say a few words and thoughts and just a quick discussion about where it went. And do we want to intro the next challenge before we go into this so that we can kind of talk about through that lines? No, all right. Yeah. So, do you want to start or should I start?
Okay. So. Like I said, I've been on a business trip for the past week, dove in on all this. So this is going to be my first time reading any of these. So I'm just going to grab one, randomly and just dive in. Let's go with, okay. I'm going to go Jameson. One's Tavern. Yes. Okay. So if you listen to the last episode, One's Tavern was like the first place a D&D person goes, like on your first campaign, and you have all these like new adventurers like trying out their skills and all that.
Yeah, play on level 1 or the chosen one tavern. Mm-hmm.
So, man, I would like to share the 50 word, but okay. So this is expanded, and he's got a note. Micah and Ben, Once Tavern was originally going to be in a D&D setting and meeting other party members similarly to what you both were sharing on the podcast. I decided instead to challenge myself with better developing and explaining a magic system in the book I'm writing. I was avoiding chair time with the concept as it was intimidating to have something so crucial to the story and yet up until this point be super flabby. This writing prompt helped me flesh out source carving more. I hope you dig it. This was just right. This is just the right segment to help push my story forward. Thanks again. Let's see. Here we go. The wizard signed his last word and released a breath. He pulled back his hand, careful to not smudge the inscription on the cold glass stein. It was a difficult trick, one that he was sure would impress the high transmuter. The condensation could easily ruin the fresh ink, but this was not normal ink, nor was he a normal wizard. That's what he was trying to prove at least. The wizard raised his voice. Everyone, you are welcome to gather round. Your ogling will not be condemned, as you are about to witness history. The eyes of the tavern were on him, but there were only one set he truly cared about. He winked at the girl who watched him inscribe the rune. I'm ready this time. There's some italics there, just what I was talking about. I will resonate this glass to me. He slowed his delivery, with not one drop spilled. A large man with a beard thick as his accent shouted, "What's so history-changing about a simple magic trick?" The wizard sighed. "Nothing, Stahl. It's just a good magic trick." He quickly shifted his tone back to that of a performer. "Now then, I'll take your cooperation by means of silence, please." The wizard's face hardened as the dull ambient hum of power resonated within him. He stared at the stein, his eyes unmoving, and slipped a brown leather glove on his right hand, pulling it down snug. A pattern on its palm glowed with dim violet light. The wizard extended his gloved hand towards the stein and reached for the note he inscribed on it until he, the rune, and the sigil on his glove all matched frequencies. It was simple enough. Match rune to sigil, resonate, then use the verbal and somatic components necessary to activate the intended magical effect as previously written. First year stuff. Hand! The wizard pulled back in a controlled motion, but the stein flew at him with the force of a cannonball. He narrowly dodged it as it shattered on impact to his right. The floor showered with glass and rum. The floor which the wizard now found himself on. Right, that was a good trick. The wizard was surprised that the walking beard got a breath in between laughs to hurl his words back at him. A voice called from his left. "Somatics were spot on, but your vocals could use some work." It was the bartender. Word of advice, he said, kneeling behind him. After activating the spell, while performing the necessary somatic, state your desired effect. To me will work fine. No need to shout. Otherwise, the next one will be career-ending. He looked at the mess and sighed. "Here," he said, extending his hand. "Name's Ori Killy." "Florin," the wizard said. He leaned on the bartender's hand to his feet. Stahl roared, "Academy rejects thinks he'll get his fiancée back." Florin put his hand to his flintlock. "It's not worth it, mate," the bartender said. "Let the man sit in his own ignorance. That's consequence enough, eh? Unlike him, you have a knack for source carving. Not an easy feat, though. Humility would have saved you the embarrassment." And my second chance. He watched the girl, the high transmuter, withdraw, head down. Madeline. Florin rubbed his forehead. "So, bartender, you plan on handing out any more tips?" "Unfortunately, poverty has dried up my academic generosity. What I provided is more than enough to get a hand with that. Florin put his hand out and resonated. To me, the glass shards lay still. Are you mad? I meant with this. Florin sighed and reluctantly caught the mop thrown at him. That's great.
Good one.
Yes.
This rune to sigil magic system is pretty crazy.
I like this a lot. Yeah, there's he laid a lot in play here with his fiance is a high transmuter that he was trying to show off for. We got Stahl, who's just like giving him shit.
Fun characters.
Yeah, the bartender is much more knowledgeable now. Like he really expanded upon the bartender, who he's a bartender, but he also knows something about rune sigil magic enough to like step in and be like, "You're close, man." But and then the kind of high hoping wizard who's like, "Okay, yeah, to me," and he's like, "No, dude, the mop, take the mop." Like.
And should we read the 50-word versions along with these? Just quickly.
I would like to. I just didn't have it queued up.
Yeah. I have it here.
Yeah, so read his 50-word.
Rune to sigil. That was all. Hand. The wizard pulled back as the bottle shattered on impact to his right. The floor now showered with glass and Jameson. A voice called from behind. Somatics were spot on, but your vocals could use some work. It was the bartender.
That's so sick. That was it, right?
Right.
That and that is what he wrote. He seeded off of spell.
Yeah.
So spell is the root. Those 50 words came out, and then everything I read came out after that. Challenged after that. Badass.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and
Okay, he did say this. I want to say this real quick. Thanks again, right, guys. Side note, it was cool that you gave the community the freedom to expand on someone else's 50-word fantasy. I hope someone does hop onto one's tavern and some of the other ones too, because I would love to see what other things people come up with. Boom.
Yeah. I wish to.
I do too. I want to see someone take someone else's and run with it. I think it'd be sick.
Yeah.
All right, you're up.
Yeah. So, do we want to read the old one first?
Who are you reading?
And for any of them, I feel like we should establish.
Yeah. No, I think we should read the old one on all.
Yeah,
of them.
I'll do Anna's. That was the Sibyl. The old one was, she sits before the hot springs, draped in silks, inhaling sacred vapors. On her gates are inscribed the words, "Know thyself." She is the Sibyl, blessed and cursed by the sun god, lord of oracles. Come, traveler, the graying maiden will sing rhymes telling you of your destiny. And now the new one goes like this. The title is The Golden Bow. Aeneas, how would you pronounce that? Aeneas?
Let me see.
Aeneas. I'm going to say Aeneas.
Okay. Aeneas. I like Aeneas. Yeah, let's go for it.
Aeneas took in a deep breath of thin mountain air as he crested the peak of the Sibyl's haunt. Aeneas had sailed all the way out to Cumae, driven on by messages from the gods to seek his destiny, and found a new kingdom out of the ashes of his fallen one. He waited for his head to clear, then pushed open the gate a crack. "Come in." A wheezing, ancient-sounding female voice echoed from within the cavern. Aeneas squeezed himself through the space between the gates. His crew of guards tried to squeeze themselves in after him, but the Sibyl's voice echoed again. "No, no, companions. You alone, traveler Aeneas." How did she know his name? He'd be a true man worthy of glorious fallen city, and not tremble. But the Sibyl, quite frankly, unnerved him. She sat on a stool, inhaling sacred vapors. She was thin, wrinkled, and draped with diaphanous silks. Her hair was done up in an elaborate bun, and her eyes bulged as though maddened. Aeneas had heard she was in her 700th year already. Looking at her, he believed it. "Aeneas, do you wish to know your destiny?" "Ancient lady," Aeneas began. He racked his brains for how to put his unusual request. Your prophecies, gift of the sun god, are not what I seek. My destiny has already been told me by my father, Anchises. But before my father was able to give me full instructions, he died. If there was any way I could find out the rest of his message. The Sibyl was silent for a time. Ah, I see. Do you then wish to see him in the underworld and finish your conversation? Rare was it for mortals to go to the underworld while still living, and still rarer to return. He knew legends of a few of the great heroes who had done so, but the thought of it strained even his great bravery to its limit. I can be your guide. I am not only prophetess, but guardian to the gates of the lower realms. But you must carefully follow my instructions. Do you, hero Aeneas, promise to do so? Yes. Then follow the path up the mountain to a tree whose leaves are of pure gold. Pluck a golden bow. This will protect you in the lower realms. Then return to me, and we will together journey to the gate below the dark lake. Aeneas nodded slowly and bowed deeply and reverently before backing out of the cavern. What was that all about? One of his guards asked him. No time to waste. I must find it, Aeneas growled. His guards backed away from him. Clearly, there would be no interfering with his purpose now. He followed the mountain track above the Sibyl's cave, as he had been told. The tree stood before him, glittering gold in the sun. He reached out and plucked a branch. It yielded easily to his grasp, then returned to the cave. So you have returned, brave traveler, intoned the Sibyl. Follow me down to the lake, then. They wound their way down the backside of the mountain. A black lake, stinking with the smell of rot, loomed before them. The Sibyl guided Aeneas to a crack in the face of the surrounding rock. The gate to the lower realms is here. Follow if you dare. She disappeared into the rock. Aeneas held out his golden branch, took a deep breath, and followed. Cool.
I think that may be my favorite of Anna's that she submitted yet. That is very cool. Sick.
Cool tone, yeah.
A lot of cool tones, cool names, cool imagery there. Man, this is sick.
Yeah, I like the dialogue, like the characters speaking to each other. What we're setting up with the...
Say again, what was her 50 word?
She sits before the hot springs draped in silk, inhaling sacred vapors. On her gates are inscribed the words, Know thyself. She is the Sibyl, blessed and cursed by the sun god, lord of oracles. Come, traveler, the graying maiden will sing rhymes telling you of your destiny.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah, so obviously we got the direction.
So she said the graying maiden in the first one? Okay, got you. I was thinking the whole time, I was like, oh, that's interesting that she decided to take an elderly approach to the oracle, but she had it in the 50 word all along.
And it's based on something she said in the most recent submission. She said, look up Aeneid/Sibyl of Cumae to find the myth this is based on. That's AENEID/
nice.
SYBIL of CUMAE.
Okay, well, I will look that up.
Excited to see where it goes with the next challenge, but
yeah, me too.
Save the speculation on that until we actually announce it. So
we'll dive in.
Yeah, let's go into the next one. Let's just keep rolling here.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay, I'm gonna do. Let's hop into. I'm gonna do Tim H's Fell Recurrence, an Abyssal Child expansion. Fell Recurrence. Witness the self-creating abyss. Cloud's dark imitation billows towards the heaven with sickly sweet fragrance. Hungry flames feast on virtue, joy incinerated, love lost, crisped curls of ash ascend, laden with vice. Soul departed, its sins remain. Ancestral ash rides carnal winds. Accreting skeins of skin. Memories shape imposed. The child born of man returns. Purified perdition, vile salvation. Concentration of degeneracy. The earth swallows his bitter draught. Salvation hath come. The grass has forgotten its first love. It does not rise to meet the sun, but to spear prey. All is cadaverous ruin. The sky stained scarlet. Night is repulsed by tongues of fire patrolling above. Shadowed non-faces are frozen with rictus laughter. Shade selves revel in newfound freedom, courting destruction as they consume their origin. He will not correct this self-destruction. He is a shade himself, treading out the winepress of the world to a frenzy of martyrs' shouts. A naked woman sits between a circle of blazing fires, clutching an infant forcefully to her chest. Her hair is shorn haphazardly. Her eyes are like a frazzled deer, but quivering muscles betray her ruse. Her confounded shade mules outside the fire blockade, naked without shadow. It begs him to extinguish the circle of light. The woman flinches upon seeing him, holds her infant tighter. Her face tightens into adamant. His eyes bristle with wetness. He blinks it away. There is no time for compassion. He beseeches the sky with empty palms. There! Off in the distance, behind the woman, the clouds roll back. Tongues of fire whimper as the sky dampens. There, riding on the clouds, he makes out a heavenly presence. Pinpricks of stars gather about its robes. Roiling mist steams and crackles as earth receives heaven. The sky burgeons with static. The lightning tongue of God arcs to announce judgment. Smite me! God's lungs are empty. He looks at the woman. Her face is defiant. He is appalled by her hope. No, please, not another. There is a quiver of indecision in her eyes as she clasps the child. Earth ruptures before his steps. The blooded valley drains into the crevasse of his footprint. The Savior hovers, awaiting the final shout, while salvation lumbers forward with anvils for feet. His steps are surer than his passion. He steals his will, reaches out. He wrenches the babe away, holding it by a leg. She lunges at him, but he is immovable. He flicks her off like an ant. She tumbles to the grass, crying out at its cut. His jaw trembles as he looks towards heaven. Must I suffer the little children too? He screams. God gives no answer. He ever watches in silence. The child dangles listlessly, a straw doll swaying on the wind. He gasps as the child winds towards him. Its face is like fermenting fruit, a mottled bluish purple mash. He staggers in a moment of horror. The woman's face trembles, breaks. Racking sobs clutch her breast as she lunges forward, reaching to cradle the dead child. A lightning bolt zings through him. Euphoria! The tongue of God finally fallen. He hears a tearing sound, feels his anima shudder. The woman rushed past the child. A pinion of bladed grass skewers her armpit. Her hand is ashen. He topples as she blathers. My child, for all mankind, you fool. Above, heaven recedes. God turns back again. leaving only his robe of stars to gaze upon. Man has no need. Yet, his dying body combusts in a gout of flame. Ashes rise to dance with the wind once again. Fell eternal recurrence.
Tim, once again, the great lines in here.
Dude, the prose, man, they're nuts.
I'm reading it.
It is a poem. Like it feels like a poem throughout.
I come in and out of going of actually understanding what is going on at all. and I find that the parts that I don't understand at all are just as visually interesting usually.
His word structure, like it's something that like I read this and immediately I'm like, okay, cool. I want to read this about 4 more times because in one read through, so much cool shit just like procced in my head, but it's like rapid fire that I'm like constantly like, okay, where are we at now? Where are we at now? Okay. Oh, I saw that. Okay. I see that. So I'm seeing glimpses. So I want to read through it again, and then I want to read through it again, and I want to read through it again.
Yeah. He's really great.
He's a thick writer. I love it.
Like just really like tonally drenched sentences and great with like,
it's very stabby too.
A lot of writing, I look for like the sentences to start in a way that there's like variety, like so all the sentences not starting with he in a row, you know.
Yeah.
Like if it's like back to back, a lot of sentences starting with the same word or like the or it, and it's like these are like so colorful, like it's just continually switching up what it's saying. Like night is repulsed by tongues of fire patrolling above. Shadow non faces are frozen with rictus laughter. Shade selves revel at newfound freedom, courting destruction as they consume their origin. He's a shade of himself treading out the winepress of the world into a frenzy of martyrs' shouts. Like there's different lengths of sentences.
Yeah.
The sentences are deep and logical, and like there's variety. It just sounds fresh. You can speak it aloud and it sounds like it just continues rolling into new types of syllables and
yeah. It like the flourish. It's like one of my favorite scenes in Matrix is the French guy who he like talks about like when you cuss in French, it's like wiping your ass with silk. It's like it just feels so good, and you're just like constantly going into the next one and the next one and the next one. He's got a very good wield on vocabulary and just imagery. Very cool. Yeah, I love this. Like I said, I'm gonna have to read it a few more times. Yeah, but I highly recommend everyone else read it a few more times too. This is sick.
Yeah, check it out on the website under the challenges section, and probably under the submit section as well, as we'll be continuing these into the next week. So this will probably be up on the submission as something you'll need to look into to complete next week's challenges. So you'll be able to find it on the website there.
And as a guy who has dyslexia, I just want to apologize to anyone whose work I'm reading for the first time live.
I was watching it,
especially when it's laden with broad vocab and things that you're not expecting to come across. I pause a lot, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless. I hope you don't think that I butcher your stuff. I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
You're doing a great job, Micah.
Thanks, man.
And I was watching a TikTok on dyslexia and like learned that it's like dyslexia is like a fully encompassing like learning and like mental pattern of like you can process information in 3D space in your brain, and you can process information verbally and visually at the same time. And because all those things are going on, like that is why letters are getting jumbled essentially, is because like there's a lot more processes going on at once. Which is
That's
crazy
interesting. I haven't heard that explanation. It kind of makes sense when you're talking about it though.
Yeah,
I'd like to read that.
Yeah, I was watching a TikTok on it was comparing visual and verbal like learners and thinkers, and I like turned to Julia and I was like, that's crazy. This is like us. Like, so I think I'm a kind of a verbal person and like a visual person. Then it's like a third character comes in, they're like, I'm both, and I can like process all information and spatial information in 3D space in my head, like create like mental model. And everyone's like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm dyslexic. That's like the
But when I read anything on paper, it just switches all around constantly because it's trying to figure out which dimension to process to. That makes sense. That about feels like my mind.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's like a lot of things have been labeled as like disabilities or negative things throughout the years that are actually more like all encompassing, like good and bad, you know.
They're all double-edged swords. You're either seeing the negative side or the positive side.
Yeah, you can learn about it and wield it, and like any difference can be an advantage or a disadvantage in different ways. So anyway,
that's cool.
But I was gonna say, you have gone last for like several challenges in a row. So I was hoping to go last this time. Okay. So can I read the next two and then you'll go and then me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or do you want to like just read one more and let's hop into ours?
I don't want to choose between them.
Okay. All right. Let's just do both. Let's do it. Yeah. Go for it.
All right. So we had that one Summer in Hathranir.
Oh yeah. That's
with
right.
the sort of forbidden thing. Should I read the old one?
Always.
All right. So we've got Summer in Hathranir. The battle ended now. His face, though blue and red, blood and death, was ever beautiful. Tears tracked my face and guilt racked my heart. Rage and love bid me speak the words. Forbidden. Fuck forbidden. A deep breath and they flowed. Then did his blood. Okay, death has boundaries. Summer in Hathranir. The battle ended now. His face, though blue and red, blood and death, was ever beautiful. Tears tracked my face and guilt racked my heart. Rage and love bid me speak the words. Forbidden. Fuck forbidden. A deep breath and they flowed. Then did his blood. I felt warmth in his skin again, and slowly his chest began to rise and fall before he opened those eyes of sea foam and focused on mine. Garwin. I choked out a sob. How? He breathed back softly. You know how, but we mustn't speak of it. Can you stand? We must leave with haste. Fulton, no. Why would you? Shh, I interrupted. Not here. Not now. Come. We rose slowly and found Garwin's footing after only a few wobbly steps. Hunkering low, we darted across the battlefield and down the slope of the field. Hunkering down low, we darted across the battlefield and down the slope of the field. The ground was riddled with corpses, limbs and ownerless weaponry. I plucked fallen arrows here and there as we went and slid them into the quiver on my back. No doubt they would be needed, and soon. The slope tapered off and morphed into mostly flat earth with tall grass that swayed in the copper-scented breeze. Behind us, carrion descended on the great feast of fresh flesh. Shielded by the dark grass, the two of us now slowly paced and followed where the soil grew darker and eventually turned to dense mud. This meant water, a stream to wash off both our bodies and our scent. As luck would have it, a stream came into view after only a few moments. We left our weapons on the bank and waded into the shallow, clear water. Wetting my hands, I began wiping away the streaks of blood and soil from my love's face, scrubbing harder along his bearded jawline. I enveloped his face with my hands and pulled him to me for a warm kiss. More followed, longer and deeper, until I remembered we needed to keep moving. Reluctantly, I pulled away and sighed. Looking into his stormy eyes, I smiled subtly. Let's go. I spoke gently. Recovering our weapons, we crossed the stream with them held aloft. We linked hands now and continued along the edge of the water. Late afternoon fog swept across our view ahead, shrouding a dense forest for which we aimed to reach. Our armor creaked from the moisture and dried slowly due to the humidity that lay heavy in the air. The dull thud of our footsteps on the grass echoed in our ears as we drew closer to the tree line. In mere moments we would be hidden from sight. We would rest and talk, perhaps enjoy each other. Wishful thinking on my part as seconds before we could cross into the wood, a wall of purple-blue flames shot in front of us and grew taller every second. A raspy laugh rang out from all directions as a figure adorned in a great billowing cloak of the darkest purple emerged from the flame wall and strode toward us. Felina. Our hands clenched tighter as we both reached for our blades. Her cat-like green eyes danced with flame and hatred as she sharply flicked her right arm toward the ground, and a black spear issued from her palm. "Finally," she purred. "Your flesh will be ribbons, and your abominations will cease." Looking at my partner with fear and anger, I said, "Gods, I hate this fucking bitch." Felina.
Holy
new
shit.
Villain. The
God,
cool, good villain name with a cat theme.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. And okay, this is what I was thinking about earlier. So in the YouTube comments on the last episode, he chimed in and said, "I didn't even process that it would be confusing because we were talking about like I don't really know where he's going with this. Is like this happening? Is this happening? Blah blah." He said the words were to bring the other back to life. They were both fighting in a bigger battle. One died. He was using a resurrection spell. The blood that flowed was the dead person's. And then he said forbidden is because the spell to bring them back to life is forbidden. Dude, that's sick. And then Felina shows up to like with purple blue flame just encircling, and then she just points. I saw Hela from Thor show up where she like conjures spears and stuff, and she like points to the ground, and a black spear just shows up. Mm-hmm. That's sick, man.
Yeah,
I love this.
Forth from her palm, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Badass. Well done.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brian. And our last one up here is from Shannon, and this was based on that one with the pen.
So
the old story was her grandfather's fountain pen was in her backpack's front pouch. It shouldn't be used for trivial things, but she needed practice. She reached inside, felt cold brass, contrasted against plastic pencils, then wrote on an empty page, "Forget." "Was there homework due?" the teacher asked herself. "No, I suppose not."
Awesome. Let's dive in.
"There are two magics, as ancient as the world itself," she recited. She had never had to explain it to someone before, and racked her brain for terminology that would make sense to an average person. "The first you're probably familiar with is, if you've ever read a fairy tale. We'll call it material magic, but witchcraft is an accurate term too. Sacrifices, rituals, potions. It sounds really complicated, but it's not. It's using materials to gain materials. Anyone can do it without much training at all. Give your blood, gain a fortune. Mix herbs and torture animals, gain a husband or a wife. Pretty much anyone who's rich and famous has done it at some point." "And you're a witch?" he asked. "Like a witch in training?" "Hell no," she answered. "Witches are evil. We believe so, at least. Witchcraft is all about helping yourself, getting pleasure. It's wicked." "So you must do the other magic." He leaned in, both to better hear her voice and to exclude any eavesdroppers in the crowded cafeteria. "My family's magic is called immaterial magic. It deals with stuff you can't see. Thoughts, emotions, memories, virtues." "You can read people's thoughts?" "No, it doesn't work like that. We can sway things, if that makes sense, and it's really hard to do. Anyone can become a witch, but it takes a really long time to become a scribe." "Is that what you're called? A scribe?" "That's what we call people who master immaterial magic. I'm not even close." "You wiped our teacher's memory, though." "Yeah, but she's already kind of forgetful. I just nudged her thoughts." "Still, it's blowing my mind. Can you teach me?" His eager face lit up at the thought. If only he knew the extent of what he was asking. He wouldn't envy her if he knew that the reason she hadn't worked on her biology homework last night wasn't out of laziness. Rather, she'd spent her after-school hours hunched over a writing table, hand-copying the Iliad onto sheets and sheets of parchment because nothing about her family's magic was easy. Penmanship had to be perfect. Minds had to be mastered. If she were to take her place in the family business, she would have to commit herself to a life of constant self-denial. Discipline was a scribe's chief virtue. But this boy saw her use a spell on a teacher, so her discipline was clearly not as developed as it needed to be. "It's a lot of work," she said, And I probably shouldn't have told you these things anyway. I'm really good at keeping secrets, he tried to assure her. I won't tell anyone about your magic pen. She couldn't help but smile at that. It wasn't a magic pen, but that's how it would look to an outsider. There was so much about her life that people didn't understand. The wonder in her classmate's face reminded her that her normal was another person's fantastic. Would you like to see it? She asked him, pulling it out of her backpack. His eyes grew wide as she handed him the fountain pen. It was a century old, but in pristine condition, and so heavy that his fingers hurt at the thought of writing with the thing. The polished brass grip was engraved with a motto: starve the ego, feed the soul. Yeah, that one's awesome.
Jeez. I'm so glad you read both of those. I didn't choose. God, those are both so good.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Oh, man. I love how she brought this new character in who's to kind of explain it, like somebody who's interested in it, who saw it happen in the class and is like, whoa, what happened? Yeah. And they're at lunch.
This is the only story that like fully kind of picked up like before or after the events instead of just like rehashing the scene or like building out the scene.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to like see that just as like the sequel, just as like it's just the next thing that happens is the conversation after someone saw her do this thing. And it's great. Like I think that the characters are good. I think that the conversation is like believable. It's well written. I think that it's like it's an interesting scene to watch and listen to, just the characters talking about.
And I really like the magic system of like to be a scribe, like she didn't forget the homework assignment because she didn't do it. She was up all night copying the Iliad just to work on her penmanship, because penmanship matters in this. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like alchemy or whatever, like drawing the runes perfectly matters, like the penmanship of the spell matters here.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool. Like, just seeing a little further look into, the practice of magic is so sick, man. Sure. Very cool. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah. Let's jump into yours.
Okay. All right, so my 50-word challenge was Ben gave me Oracle, and I had to write 50 words off of that, and I came to how many crystals does she really need? Juro whined. Well, how many gods do they worship, Juro? Neefta snipped. Juro thought, over 100? Then that's how many. Now hurry up. Neefta turned and added, be careful, but hurry. She changed tones and called, Sibby dear, it's time. That was the 50-word. Now we'll pick up, Sibby dear, it's time. A young girl skipped around the wheelhouse nearby, braids bouncing. She hated when they called her that, but keeping them happy and ignorant was step one for Lake. Okay, I'm ready, she sang, feigning the innocence a girl should have at her age. There you are, my little sunbeam. Now what are you going to tell the Grand Duke when you meet him? Neefta quizzed. Lake sucked her teeth. Put up your dukes, she giggled, fist raised. Sibby, be serious, Neefta scowled. I'm kidding, Lake assured. She curtsied while continuing. I say, it is my honor and privilege to meet you, Grand Duke. Your charity knows no bounds. I will happily serve your house for the rest of my days. Neefta's frown broke into a wide grin. There's my little sunbeam. And who am I? Hi, Mother Julana of Temple Sky Spire, Lake answered. Very good. And who is Juro? Neefta continued. Your manservant, Lake exclaimed with a twirl, probably overdoing it, but these two were thick as far as she was concerned. Juro's head whipped around while loading the last crystal. What'd she call me? Pipe down, Juro. Neepta snipped, shooting him a dagger stare. Juro's shoulders sagged as he secured the wagon's gate. Oh, yeah. Sorry. He walked around, checked the reins, and mounted the wagon's bench. Neepta looked Lake up and down one last time with the eye of a sculptor contemplating one last chip. Nope. She's perfect. Street rat to priestess in a week. Damn, you're good, Neef. Neefta thought, as she set down her mental chisel and took a satisfied breath. She hugged Lake and pinched her cheek. Now hop up there with Juro. I'm riding ahead, Neefta directed while mounting her horse. And I will see you two in a week's time. Gods be kind. She spurred her white stallion and was gone in a proud, self-satisfied canter. Come on, little miss. Better get a move on. Juro reached his hand out. Lake took it and hopped into the wagon next to him. With a crack of the reins, the wagon creaked to momentum as the dusty, yoked draft horse began padding forward. She had a week until showtime, but she'd have to practice while Juro slept. It had to be perfect. The risk was high, but the reward was power and revenge. If it worked, she would be the last. Her first demand? Neefta's head. After that, whatever the hell she wanted.
Lake
Awesome. Is born.
Yeah. She's got her own motivations. I love it.
Yeah. So I see her basically, like, as we were spitballing on the last one, we talked about different like twists that could happen. And I see like this couple being like scam artists that go and like find street urchins and train them up and like act like they're these benefactors who are like trading them off or bringing them to royal households to be like servants in, where they can have like a better life, and they can have like a, you know, work and all this stuff like that. But specifically this couple is like their con is oracles. Like they go and find out these like grand dukes and these different like palaces, and they sell off these urchins as oracles by like loading all these crystals. And by the time that, like, the backstory I'm thinking here is by the time that these people find out that this is all a fake, they think that they're all in on it, and they kill everyone. Like the girl who's sold is the first one to die. And I'm seeing Lake's sister or best friend or whatever from the same town. Like she saw her get abducted or get picked up by them, and they took her off and sold her off for a profit and forgot about it forever. And she later finds out she's dead. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. She just knows that she's gone forever. But then these people come back and they don't recognize her, and they pick her to be to be the next pawn in their scam. And she just plays along with it because she's like, wait a second. So they're training people to be oracles who are supposed to speak for the gods. So all I have to do is like talk like a god, and these people will listen to whatever power, whatever I say, because they'll think it's from a god. So she's like, so if I embrace this, if I con them on this, and then like show up like enough whenever like it comes to the time, and I like act like I'm showing it, then I have divine power and I will get my revenge. But then after that, I'll also just have whatever I want. And so she's like this little, like, I see her as like this little like 12, 13-year-old girl who's like just kind of turning into this like power wielding badass.
Yeah.
Who's a street urchin to a badass who's like defending, like getting her first step get revenge for my best friend or sister or whatever who got taken from you. And the way I'm going to do that is by killing Nifta. Fuck Nifta. Second step, if it all works, then I can have whatever I want.
I can imagine like the premise of this story kind of being like the unique take that is a story of like a fake oracle having to fake all their predictions but still be right. Like, so she has to figure out like how to start like predicting the future, like maybe contriving things happening in the town.
Yeah.
Like she's the one orchestrating them happening and also the one predicting them happening.
Dude, I see that too. Like I see Nifta. I'm thinking about how Nifta is going to like present herself. She's writing a week ahead. So she's got to present herself as this like holy mother of this temple. And she's going to kind of set the bait for them to arrive and then have like the transaction set up by the time they arrive. So there's a scam happening within a scam. And then she's thinking all this time, she's got a week to think about how she's going to like what she can set in place to be a self-fulfilled prophecy basically. And I'm thinking she's going to poison Juro and kill him. To like, you know, basically be able to call someone out as they're about to die and they do, or something like that, or whatever. So they're like, she speaks as the voice of the gods, and like the gods are angry with this one. Take her head, you know. And she's like, what, you know? And they kill Nifta, and then she's got to like think of the next prophecy, you know.
Yeah,
kind of fun though.
That's cool. That's a good idea. It's a good little story.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
Thanks.
All right, should we jump into mine?
I think we should.
All right. So this is like the next one on their untitled document. And I'll read my one from last week. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. The equations are incomplete. Even if you make it through, your mind will be torn to ribbons. The artificer raked his hair. By the time your equations are complete, half the Great Lord's Minutemen will be through that door. The magician reached forward. I'll take my chances. All right.
Badass.
Do you have any idea how dangerous this is? The equations are incomplete. The ritual hasn't even reached maturation. Even if you make it through, your mind will be torn to ribbons.
The artificer raked his hands through his hair. Red royalty draped a luxurious study, bookshelves packed with ancient tomes, work tables cluttered with beakers, sigils, and arcane models. A stripe of concentrated chaos cleft the room down the middle, where 3 sparking cables extended over resinous debris and connected to a hulking metal ring in the center of the space. By the time your equations are complete, half the Great Lord's Minutemen will be through that door. The magician's eyes sparked. He pressed a finger to the marks on his arm. Need I remind you the meaning of these runes? The artificer plopped his head into his hands, revealing the same tattoo on his own forearm. God's blood, Fedwin. Fortune favors the bold. The magician extended his palm and cleared his throat. The artificer stood, grumbling to himself incoherently. He wiped a line of sweat from his forehead and snatched a magnetic conduction rod from his desk. He placed it in the magician's hand.
Approach slowly. Try to get an even pull.
As Fedwin closed his fingers around the rod, the hairs on his arms stood straight up. He felt a tingling lightness move up his arm into his body and trickle up his neck. Then the subtle weight of his hair lifting from his scalp. His shoulder-length curls clustered into a dark mantle about his skull and drifted behind as he made toward the machine at the center of the room. As Fedwin neared the ring, he held the conductor aloft. A blue circle of energy pooled in the ring, responding to the rod's motion like a mirror image. Crash! The study door was swung open on splintered hinges. 3 men in cloaked black armor stormed into the room. Stopwatches lay embedded in the center of their breastplates.
Focus!
The artificer met his gaze.
Approach slow. I'll hold them off.
The magician's jaw dropped and he froze as the artificer moved to block the path between him and the Minutemen.
Are you insane? I'm not leaving you behind.
The Minutemen crept forward, shields down.
Take it as a warning, though you wouldn't heed my last.
The artificer ground his teeth and lifted a hammer from the holster at his side.
That spell is premature, volatile.
He gave the humming metal contraption a distasteful glance.
Given the options, I'll take my chances against these 3.
Well then, Fedwin eyed the soldiers and looked back at the portal. I trust you know your measure. He inched toward the blue pool of energy, centering his rod in the scope of the metal ring. Slack! Warm liquid spattered the back of Fedwin's neck and head. He froze in horror and turned back to see the artificer's body soaring aside, mangled by a barbed greatsword. A second soldier had already leapt past the scuffle to descend on Fedwin. Their limbs moved unnaturally fast. All the air left his lungs as the man tackled him backward into the huge metal ring. The magician gasped, clutching the conductor firm and trying to maneuver it properly as he tumbled backwards through the air. The blue pool of energy roiled into chaotic swirl as the rod shook and angled toward the edge. Bad approach. Whoom! The blue energy burst into a massive cloud filling the room. Ticking stopwatches. As the fog lifted, 2 soldiers stood beside the contraption. The artificer's body lay on the floor. The conductor rod had disappeared.
Bro, this is so sick. I love the idea. I love the idea that you set in play on the last one, like on this whole thing with like the magician and the artificer, and having the magician be like this badass who's just like ready to push the envelope at all times, and the artificer is just like this calculated guy, like, but they've been working together forever, and they like. You showed that bond so well in one sentence with like, do I not need to like remind you what these runes mean? And then he's like, God, like, you know, like he's like, for fuck's sake, you know, like,
this again.
You're gonna call me out on that, okay? Yeah. You know, and then like he's got this hammer, like, what a cool weapon to give him for an artificer, also, like. Having a hammer, like he's a tinkerer, you know, like, and but he draws it. It's like I don't know.
It's like he is totally a badass in his own way, right? Like more ready to fight these 3 soldiers, but then like the magician is like not a badass in that way. Like he would rather not stay and help his friend fight the fight. He said he was more likely to win. He's like, I still think I'm lucky enough to just make it through. And what the fortune favors the bold thing, like the idea that it's kind of like a guild or something that they're in, like this is like the tattoo, like all the markings of like whatever clan that they're with. But I like the idea that the phrase is like it indicates something about the magic system in their world, and it is why the magician will go through the portal. Like it's like he operates on the rules of the magic system in this universe. Like he is chaotic.
But you could also in this them both being a part of the same guild, you could also see them both being like, fortune favors the bold. I'm going to take 3 on with my hammer. This guy's got a barbed greatsword, and I know they're Minutemen who can slow time and shit like that, but I'd rather take my like, I'm going to be bold and do this. And he's like, I'm going to be bold and do this.
As a deep theme, it definitely can mean that. But I really like the idea that the magic system in this world, like the artificer knows that the magician probably will make it through. And it's like, because he had the courage to go. And like when the artificer is like holding his head in his hands and he's like, for fuck's sake, he's like, I know this bastard's actually going to do it. Because like he has this like touch to him. Yeah. That like he like, and it's fortune favors the bold. It's like, that's what it is. And the magician's like, you could join me. And the artificer's like, I know I can't because I know I can't. And
oh man, yeah, it kind of turns fortune into like a deity almost. Like fortune favors the bold. Like,
yeah, I was gonna write
the boldness.
I was gonna put like a god's name there, but anything else that I wrote, it became too hard to understand what he was saying. I was gonna write like Nehemiah favors the bold or something, but like, yeah.
No, you nailed it. Like it needed to be digestible right there. And dude, the Minutemen with stopwatches in their breastplate, like so sick, moving with unnatural speed and all that. Like, whew. That's dope, dude. I love it.
Thanks.
Okay, so it's time to move on. It is now again 3 a.m., which we said we weren't going to get to again.
Yeah.
But hey, this happens, and we're dedicated.
At least this time it's not the Tuesday night before the Wednesday it's supposed to be released.
That's true, except for in this case, I have a golf tournament at 5. I have to wake up at 5 a.m. So right now, I've got 3 hours of sleep. Right now, at this one moment. Doesn't matter. Right, guys? Right, guys matters.
To the challenge.
This matters. To the challenge.
The challenge next week.
Yes.
Is going to be to write another like about 500 words. We're going to try to bring this total somewhere near 1,000 essentially. What this is going to be is like write 500 more words without changing anything now from what you have. So you must keep your block of text in place. Write another 400 to 600 words. It can take place before or after. It just has to be both in the same story world and be like referentially kind of like make sense that they're paired. It does not have to be a step 1, step 2, scene 1, scene 2, A, B, before, after. It doesn't have to be like that. It could be a totally like 1,000 years in the past, but just something that's indicating like, oh, how this pen was made, you know, like the pen from the story could be like something from the pen's history, just something contextually that's the same. It's just like, this is another part of the story. And before or after, you just leave your block the same. You can do both before and after, just 400, 600 words more in the same world.
Yeah.
Another
you can
scene,
spin off and do
a
like
longer thing.
You can do throwback prequel about like you were talking about, like the pen and everything like that. Or you could literally just write what happened before it got there and what happened after, or 500 more words of what led up to that. Either way, stick with us on this and you will have completed the first Right Guys trilogy. And we will, if you've been along for the journey on this, we will have taken a 1-word seed and grown it to 50, grown it to 500, and grown it to 1,000. Yeah. And hopefully everyone will be able to look at this story that they actually love and now and realize like, man, any idea I have, I can grow it in if I just think about it in different ways and approach it in different ways, put the chair time in and decide to challenge myself on it, because you have made 1,000-word story off of 1-word inspiration that didn't mean anything to you until we just randomly drew it for each other. But these are all amazing stories, and I can't wait to see how these flesh out. I hope that everyone delivers one so we can just see where these go.
Yeah. And right now, on top of like, obviously everyone who has been so great, we've got through this 3-part challenge, all the continuous stories, but we also have 4 people who have been running with the torch since we announced the Right Guys curriculum. And so that has just passed its 4th round since we announced it. So Anna, Tim, Jameson, and Shannon are all right now on course to complete the Right Guys curriculum by next week. And at that point, we'll be setting up the interviews to have them on in the bar, on the TV, to talk about.
Any of them who finish the next challenge will be set up to be an interview to appear on the famous TV.
Yep. Come into the bar and talk about how the challenges have kind of gotten into their headspace, how it fits into their writing, what they've been working on, what the Right Guys community's up to. It'll just be a fun
dive into their writing style. We got 1,000 questions for all of them.
Yeah,
it'll be awesome. I hope they all make it. And if you have submitted at all since the romance episode 7, then you've got one. Well, they've got to be
sequential.
They got to be sequential. That's right.
Getting the engine going is really the most important part.
That's right. You got to do 5 in a row.
The practice. Yeah.
That's right.
And it's
so
tough.
we got four front runners. That's badass.
We've had one or two people who have like dropped out at this point for one of the challenges. This past week, I think there's one or two that haven't sent in, and I do want to say, like, if you I mean, it's too late to say now because this episode's going to air way later. But in the future, even if you pass a deadline, if you send in a story that meets the challenge requirements within a week structure, we can always work around this. Like, this is just about whether you're doing the work consistently. So, like, if you didn't meet our deadlines, which are constantly changing anyway,
just try anyway.
But you met your own kind of consistency deadline and you still send something in, we definitely will, even if it passes our deadline by a day or whatever, we will still consider that having done the consistent writing work necessary to fulfill the obligations of the Right Guys curriculum.
Yeah, we're just trying to, we want to bring people on here who have written for 5 weeks in a row. That's like that's pretty much, and
every other
submitted
week
it, like stepped up to the challenge, put the chair time in, and just, we want to get you on, and we want to hear how your writing has developed, like where you were before, where you are now, what's next, all this. Because that's what this is all about. This is all about just getting used to chair time and developing all of our projects together.
Yeah.
So, man.
With that, I would say, let's say the challenge is probably going to be due the next Wednesday, so a week from the day that this episode airs.
Yep.
And it was a good time seeing you here today, Micah. Good catching up with you.
It's wonderful seeing you, as always, man.
And to all the Right Guys back home, have a great day, a great night, and a great week, and we'll see you in the next one.